call to order the school board workshop. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Athene.
Here.
Buffalo.
Here.
Martin.
Present.
Olson.
Present.
Slaughter.
Present.
Thomas.
Here.
DeCalagero.
Here. Kristen McGarity will come forth to cover agenda item 2.01, School Board Goal 2, measure number 2, followed by agenda items 2.02, School Board Goal 3, interim measure 1 and 2, and agenda item 2.03, interim measures 1 and 2 in that order.
Here, come back to that agenda item, to the green. There you go. And go to the very, is that the one? Okay.
So, Madam Chair and members of the board, as Ms. McGarity is setting up, just want to let you know, remind the board and the public that the state growth assessments this year were delayed at the state level, so now we're finally able to catch up to all of our board goals. And in order to really to assist with the understanding of this, Ms. McGarity is going to go over just the state growth assessment in general in our past year's trend data, and then she'll go through each of the board goals for you, but they're all connected because it's all with the growth assessment data tonight. So it is 3 agenda items, but we're going to try to do it in one fall swoop for you. All right, Ms. McGarity?
Great, thank you. Yes, we're going to try and move through these as condense it as much as possible so we're not starting over with each goal. But as Dr. Pohl mentioned, I do want to go through the state growth assessment. What is it? How does it work? What are we taking away from it for our purposes here for goals and that kind of thing? So good afternoon, Chair DeCalagero, Vice Chair Thomas, Dr. Pohl, and other board members. We're going to go through this quick presentation orienting you to the purpose and process of the state growth assessment before reviewing the board goal data resulting from this assessment. The growth assessment is computer adaptive and it's administered to all grade 3 through 8 students in reading and math. The only time students do not participate is if they are in an EOC math course in middle school or participating in VET. In the fall and winter, the assessment is a condensed version of the spring SOL essentially, which and spring is technically a growth assessment as well. During the fall assessment, students in grades 4 through 8 will take the prior enrolled grade level. So I'm kind of giving you some details before we look at the next few slides. For example, a 5th grader will be assessed in the 4th grade content in the fall. This allows us to see any prerequisite areas that need to be addressed prior to each current year's unit of instruction. It'll make more sense once we get further in as well. Grade 3 students will take the grade 3 content because there is no 2nd grade SOL test. During the winter and final spring assessments, the content assessed is the student's current grade level. So we'll look here. So with this piece, here they're going to, one more little detail about this is that all the grade level tests, they do adapt above and below grade level, so students may get 1 grade level above questions, 1 grade level below, depending on how they're answering questions. So here is my visualization, essentially, of what vertical scaled scores are. So for the growth assessments, and including spring, and I'll talk about the differences in a second, we get vertical scaled scores out of the growth assessment. And basically what that does is says we can compare students' performance across grade levels, unlike we can with scaled scores. Even in spring, there are vertical scaled scores that are coupled with the scaled score. So with that piece, and the whole scale goes from 900 to 2,000. So not at each grade level, the bottom of 3rd grade is going to be 900. Vertical scaled score, the top of 8th grade is going to be 2,000. So when we're looking at scoring and things, it's much different. But this detail is here just because, again, this is what gives us a lot of information with this piece. So the way I usually explain the vertical scaled scores and scaled scores to staff and trainings and things like that is that for a scaled score, what we know, as of right now, what we know is that a 400 is passing, correct, when we're looking at spring. That is the number that kids hit, they're considered passing. on the spring assessment. However, if I know about that in grade 3, the same thing I know about in English 11, what I know is they both have minimal proficiency of the content that they were just instructed in, right? However, there's a lot of information they have to learn in those two different places. So what the vertical scaled score shows us is what's happening in between and the information that students are gaining. So on this slide, we have the grade levels. We have the bottom of third is 900, top is 2,000. That's the same for reading and math. So I'm going to give you an example of a scaled score, or a vertical scaled score, which is 1401. So with this student here, if I'm looking at 1401 in third grade, what I essentially from this visual can say, they're about halfway. They understand half of grade 3 content, essentially, for whatever they were assessed on. But if I have that kid with the same score in fourth grade, what I know is that they are struggling and they don't have as many understandings. So this scaled score, we always want to see upwards trajectory, basically, of kids as they're moving. So there's another, I have another example here of a 1551, grade 6. They're really pretty well off. They understand most of what's going on in 6 because most of the green is below. Grade 7, we're kind of coming down halfway. In grade 8, they're struggling with understanding. So that's how these vertical scaled score works. So we're not able to say 400, 400, 400, 400. We know they have minimum proficiency of that grade level. Fall and winter, they are not going to give us a pass-fail. The vertical scaled scores are not going to give us a pass-fail. In spring, we get both. We get the scaled score that's going to tell us pass-fail, and we also get a vertical scaled score so that we're able to compare ourselves over time. Quickly, these are progress tables from the state by content with all of the vertical scaled scores by each grade level included. So with this piece, what you can see is that there are 8 ranges and also 4 performance bands. So students with a vertical scaled score of 1650 in grade 4, we know they're performing in range 6, which is also the proficient performance band. So during fall, winter, we're going to know they have a proficient understanding of what was assessed and what they've been doing. These are the same progress charts that have been used in the past, so if the numbers look familiar, that's where they're coming from. Here's the math one, same thing. How we use this, do know Algebra 1, yes, is on here. They are not taking the growth assessment. This is just for spring. Algebra 1 gets compared spring to spring, so we're able to understand their vertical scaled scores and their growth because we can look at them from 8th grade to Algebra 1. The growth vertical scaled score data are used 3 different ways, though. So we're going to go through 2, and then the third is where the goals come in. So we're able to understand level of understanding or mastery of a student or grouping of students. As an example, if the vertical scaled score for a 7th grader in math is 1551 in winter, I know they have a very basic understandings that were assessed at that time. The second use of growth data is to understand the growth trajectory of a student regardless of where they are in the ranges and the bands. So that's that piece where I said we're always looking for up, right? We'll look at data representing the first 2 uses on the following slides really quickly. And the third is to understand if students are on track to proficiency for the spring SOL. This is what is used for all the school board goal reporting. And we'll look at next when we get to those reports. Basically, we're calling them the on-trackness. For this third use, it is not a state-provided trajectory or a state-provided banding. But what that is the statistician on our team, he took this and ran a statistical analysis and was able to determine what is it that Norfolk Public Schools look like through the fall assessment, winter assessment, who end up passing the assessment at the end. So those ranges move a little bit more, but with that statistical modeling, he's able to say, all right, a kid who's here and then moves here in winter, as long as they keep going on their trajectory up, they should be on track to pass. So that's where the internal piece, but we're not going to look at what those results are until we get to the school board reporting. So with this piece, the big caveat is we have to remember There were 6 weeks of additional instruction, just like Dr. Pohl has mentioned. So there is no way to quantify every single thing that's happening is because of the 6 weeks of additional instruction. So with that piece, we have to keep it in mind. We'll go, as I talk, we'll kind of talk about some things that are hinting. The next set of slides are data that we look at a lot. We've been looking at for years. I have my friends from curriculum instruction here. They have seen these so many times, they could probably do it in their sleep. But let's get into some of the data. So here is the reading data. We call these the dot charts. So with the dot, it basically is just a visual snapshot. So the reason I have them here is not for you to dig into this data. It is really just to illustrate how this data works and how we're using it and how we know things from this. It's going to let us know where kids are, levels of understanding. Each year we track the trajectory across the whole year of all the student groups, all students as well as all the groups. At the division and at the schools. So we provide this information back to every school for every student group in every building for every administration. Data are added after each administration to show growth within grade level over the entire school year. And notice in the back, the shading there match those buckets we looked at when we looked at those first 2 progress charts. So if they're at the bottom, they're low. They're at the top, they're high in that advanced area. So the dots are all the different student groups. So this is current year right now, just all of our students at the division level. So it's all of our student groups. When looking at the dots at one grade level, if the groups are spread out, this really does give us a hint, a quick hint to say, we've probably got some gapping going on in that group between our student groups. So again, that's why I keep saying this is a quick visual snapshot for us, and where do I need to go next to look? This is not, we put all of our eggs in one basket, right? If the dots are clumped together or tighter, then this indicates less gapping in the student groups. So again, schools can look at this. They can look at it historically. They have all of their years, so they're able to say, okay, we're moving for this and that. And one of the additional student groups we've added on here is we always look at gifted, because just because they're gifted doesn't mean everything's going perfect, right? So we want to keep everybody in mind when we're doing this. So what I can see here for reading, I see a nice incline by grade level for fall, which means, generally speaking, what I can see doesn't mean it's the end-all be-all. It is the initial kind of interpretation is that we have a nice incline. They know more than they did the year before. They're higher than they were the year before. So they are not back thinking about those vertical scaled scores. The 4th graders are not sitting back where the 3rd graders, where they were in 3rd grade kind of thing. So we want to see the ups. We see some separation of the groups. So especially at the middle school grades, those groupings start to get wider. So that starts to let us know that, hey, we've got some bigger gapping going on, and that theme is going to come back up later. But what you can also see for reading is that at least at the elementary level, we can see that majority of the groups, not all the groups, majority of the groups, especially 4 and 5, are in that proficient band. So they are where they have proficient understanding of what they were assessed on. Remember, it was prior year content, so they are coming in with proficient levels of understandings of prior year content, which you got to know what you were supposed to know from before to be able to do the next piece. Here is an example of math, just like we talked about with reading. You notice there's some differences. We see some 7th grade flattening out, so you see how the picture starts to get made with this. This is one of my favorite charts just because it's a fast way to jump in and know what to do. We look at these at all the school levels so we can roll through and we can say, okay, that school, something moved differently. With this piece of it for math, we see 7th grade, but what we do also see is there's tighter groups. So there might be less gapping between the student groups in math. However, they are lower in the scale. So we know, okay, math's got some additional supports, and looking at 7th grade, maybe in addition. All right, so the next piece we're going to look at quick, we've used this over the years to look at grade 3. So this is grade 3 across all the years. So from 22, 23 on up, or fall 21 actually. What we see for reading that last year, we see that up, right? So if I'm looking at fall, 3rd graders, we see that we're kind of flat. Not fully flat, but kind of flat. And this year we have an up. Again, what we can't quantify is it the 6 weeks of instruction? Or is it that they're coming in stronger? And that's going to come back up in a little bit as well. Here's math. We have a bigger up at the end that we see for math. Again, same idea. Is it that they're stronger? And we have to use other things to help us determine that. And really, the idea is going to be, winter is going to be the key administration for us to know. But moving forward, just really quick, median, we look at this at the cohort level. So remember we talked about with 2.1, we really talked about that kind of quasi-cohort idea. So for the past many years, we've been looking at that. This is our current third graders. They've taken one assessment, one data point, here we go, right? Move fast. Fourth grade, here's our current fourth graders. So I can see over time with the current fourth graders, how they did throughout grade 3, how they moved, and then where they are coming in for fourth. So the goal for the trajectory, and this is kind of overall for everything, the goal for the trajectory from spring to fall is for students to maintain the same levels since the content assessed is the same in the spring and the fall. So third grade content, that I want them to hold on to what they know. I need them to know what they know coming into third grade. Because over the summer, I'm not looking for ups because it might be summer school, it might not, it might be all kinds of things, but at the same time, we want them to maintain at a minimum. If the line goes down, this means there may be a bit of summer slide, and if it is up, this means they were able to leverage what they know from the previous year to navigate new content from the current year. So that's one of those things that it is hinting at students being stronger, is because there's a little bit of an up here for this group. And so it's just kind of letting me know that they were able to really kind of take what they knew and leverage it more to answer those above grade level questions. Just so you guys know that at the individual level, student level, we provide to each school and teacher what we call sparkle charts. See, Dr. Pohl is laughing at me.
What she calls sparkles.
It is because they do. Some kids shine brighter than others, but it is also because I kept leaving out a couple letters and we just landed there. Now everybody calls them that. So, however, what the sparkle charts are, they are essentially this for every student. So every teacher is given for reading and math. Every administration, they actually get their new rosters when they're coming into the new school year of their trajectory. So a kiddo in 7th grade, a teacher can see all the way up what they've done since 3rd grade in this same kind of formatting. So they're able to see, all right, this kid typically struggles with transitions, but all of a sudden they get it together. And they do kind of well surpass where they were. So they're able to kind of make some of those determinations, have some understanding of a student's gaining of information and of mastery. Just quickly rolling through, here's what our current 5th graders look like. Notice their trajectory, up 3rd grade, up 4th grade, maintain 5th grade. We have here current 6th grade students. So with the current 6th graders, we notice up, kind of up, and we notice a decline going in. So again, that's one of the things we talk about with the strategic plan and things like that. We look at those transition years, those 5 to 6, 6 to 7, that kind of thing. Also I'll come to that in a second. Current 7th graders, notice the grade 6 spring to grade 7 fall for reading. This is more of a downward trajectory. So same thing we just saw with 6th grade. So starting to let us know we've got some things going on in middle school. However, this group, this is where this is nice. We can look back even 1 year to say, all right, this group didn't have that transition struggle from 5 to 6, but something's going on 6 to 7. So we start, again, it's one of those that, it's that place that I don't need to dig into what they did in 3rd grade. That was going the right direction if I had to pick somewhere to work, right, and start digging further. Now we have, here's our 8th grade reading. And now let's move on to math. Same exact kind of idea. So with math, here's grade 3, 1 data point. So we have that as 1 data point. This piece here, current 4th graders. We notice the difference in how tight, not all of them, but There's tightening of the student groups. However, what we do notice is they are lower in the scale. So remember, all of it, reading and math, 900 to 2,000. So if I'm lower in the scale for math than I am for reading, math is an area that I might need some supports. Here's my current fifth graders. So we see some down piece with the current fifth graders here. And then current sixth graders. So I'm gonna stop here just for a quick second. So these are our current sixth graders. Notice how the groups are spread here, more so than they were in the other grade levels for math, right? So what's going on with sixth grade? But now notice at the top of the slide that this is the set of kiddos who were in kindergarten when school closed for COVID reasons. They were also the set of kids who were in first grade when we were in that hybrid in and out. And math was one of the areas that I know I heard Dr. Pohl talk about many times, and also these two ladies here, that there was a struggle. The translation of math virtually was tough. And so in those early years, so that's just like early literacy, early numeracy, those are really important. Those are really important grade levels. I don't know that everybody in secondary would agree, but it is one of those that they're starting to get those foundational things. So for this group to look different, it's letting me know that, okay, that's that group that we're still kind of working with, that's working their way through from COVID closures and things like that. We also have, so here's our current seventh graders, same thing, and it's okay if we're seeing stair stepping. We want to see stair stepping, kind of flat. I'll mention with, seventh graders for math is really when things start to divide in the sense of advanced coursework for math versus on grade level coursework. So at this point for seventh grade, the advanced coursework kids have moved out of the grade level assessments and they're into the EOC piece. So we're kind of down to the set of kids. So that's why we always see seventh grade as more of a struggling grade level for math, but it's how that works with that advanced coursework movement. Then we have current eighth graders. So I am happy to take questions. That is really fast. And then once we're done with questions, or if there are no questions, we will move to the goal documents, where we will use all of this information to understand what we're talking about there. No? Okay. Can you push this?
You have the remote. It is, okay. Here you go.
Okay.
Up top.
That's a 2, 4. 2.2.
I'll pull them all up for you.
You did, no, yes, and that's perfect. Okay, so this is goal 2.2. This goal is about third graders. It is the second part of goal 2. Ms. Nash and I presented on 2.1 earlier, which was talking about our first and second graders, that early literacy piece. This is about the third graders. The goal in the front is third grade reading. So with the additional pages here, I tried to keep, because we were using STAR assessments, and now we're using state growth assessments, tried to keep as much of the formatting the same as possible just for familiarity, but all data are the state growth assessment. So with that, the data for the goals 2.2 through 4.2 are all based on that on-trackness that are those internal bands. So this is that third use of the data for on track for passing the SOL assessment that we talked about. The two and the other two were represented in the PowerPoint, and now all of the goals are that third use. So again, I'm just going to mention, just so you have it in your minds, public has it in their minds, we have it in our minds, that there was a delay in the administration this year due to the state window being delayed. So with that piece, again, winter is going to be the big tell, right? But however, I'm going to go through kind of things that are hinting towards us of kids having additional strength in the areas third grade literacy and that kind of piece. So I'm going to put this on the chart if that works, or I can put it here while I go through what the data shows and all those pieces. So what the data is showing, what we're seeing for third grade is that students in the proficient band this fall are performing 7.44 percentage points above the previous fall administration in reading. Even though there were 6 weeks of additional time here, there are things that are hinting at students in grade 3 being stronger in literacy. It might not be that strong, but it's not, we're pretty confident that there are some things where students have some strength based off of their early literacy experiences. One of the hints is that we have more third graders at the top of the proficiency performance band for on track, which is a difficult place to be unless students have a better grasp of understandings of the content, and most likely isn't solely from 6 weeks of instruction. With looking at it kind of quasi-cohort wise, we presented on goal 2.1 that on the VAL, 68.1% of students in grade 2 spring of 25 were not identified with risk. So they were out of the high risk and they were in the moderate or low risk bands. Those are now these current third graders that we're looking at for the current year. The reason that I am taking that as a hint to additional strength in early literacy is that if we look the year before at PALS, which I understand PALS and VALs are different, however, they're not apples and oranges. They're more like red apple, green apple, right? They are looking at a lot of similar things, even though we can't one for one say. But something to look at as a separate piece of couch of information is going to be, we had 65% of the kids the prior year that were not identified. So with that piece of it, so again, not just because the 68 is higher, but it's one of those that in those areas where they're looking at those early foundational skills for reading, those are our kids that moved in, and we have one group has gone up and the other went up, and neither of the PALs and VALs had anything to do with delayed windows. So that's one thing, like I said, it's a hint. Winter's going to be the big tell, but those are some things that we might not be seeing 7.44% percentage points growth, but we're seeing some strength there with kids. So with this piece, so really what's going well, I mean, kids are looking stronger, which is what we want. We need them to be stronger so they can learning to read and they keep moving forward. What's not going well is the difficulty for us, honestly, to be able to say this is for sure what happened, right? Because of that delay. But for next steps, one of the things that I want to mention before I go into next steps, as a team, we are working on timelining everything we've put out as strategies, initiatives, those kinds of things for these goals so that we're able to kind of layer on top of this data and see those things, right? We know this was implemented at this point. We started to see ups. We're able to start making some connections. So that piece we'll be able to talk about more in future reporting. And I also have from curriculum instruction, I have over on this side, everybody kind of separated. I have literacy on this side with Ms. Nash and Jeremy, and I have on this side math, who is Rhonda White and Tisha Jones. So Jeremy Clark, I could not recall your last name for a second. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so they are going to jump in with next steps if there's any major questions and that kind of thing. But one of the examples I do want to give of what I was just mentioning on the data side of things is one of the next steps for this grade is increased collaborative walkthroughs using the VDOE K-12 comprehension walkthrough tool to strengthen text-dependent questioning and student engagement. With that piece, an example is with the timelining that we'd be able to layer on top of data as a discussion point is going to be that we know that the walkthrough tool was introduced spring of 25. We know reading specialists were trained with the literacy consultant and received a refresher in August of 25, instructional coaches August 25, principals fall of 25. We're all trained on this tool. The collaborative walkthroughs begin to all in support of increasing the monitoring of literacy instruction going on in the classrooms and things. And so as that goes on, we can say we know at this time frame that was implemented. Well, if we see things moving, then we can say, this might have something, this might be effective, right? We can't, again, 100% can't say just because there's so many different things. But that's one of those things we want to layer on as well. There's a list of other next steps where a lot of it is professional development. So there's a K-3 foundational skills walkthrough tool and expanding the collaborative foundational skill walkthroughs to monitor fidelity of instruction. Work with principals, literacy leadership teams to review classroom walkthrough data. What can they take away from that? What do they need to do next when they're seeing certain outcomes? Strengthen text-centered comprehension instruction. Implement and monitor the refined PLC internalization structures for both comprehension and foundational skills. Provide ongoing professional learning across K-5 to strengthen foundational skills instruction in the early grades. The last one is going to show up a bunch, but it's where we say continue with data analysis from overall performance down to the standard level to maintain a targeted focus on the main areas of need and extension. So with this, you're going to hear me mention a couple of times throughout about the companion documents of data that we provide to everyone about everything, about these assessments. So as we go through, we give back data that is, here you are at the top, you have your dot charts, the big top of the hill. I like data stories from top of the hill, digging down. I like that analogy, down to the exact standard level to be able to say, on this standard, the kids responded incorrectly 80% of the time. That is an area kids need support. And that is also available to all teachers, all schools, everybody at the individual student level. So we summarize it on the way up as well. I'm just going to keep rolling. Or do we want to do questions at the end of each one? Okay. I'm ready.
Is that okay with everybody? Yeah.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Have a question? Go ahead. Okay. So for this goal, first, thank you for the presentation and for the overview of the student growth assessment. That was really helpful. And actually, the presentation of that kind of answered some of the questions that I had when I looked through each of the goals. But I do want to dig into some of these areas that I noticed are pretty significant. But before we start that, with the student growth assessments, we are using those because they correlated better, more strongly with our overall goal.
Compared to STAR,
compared to the STAR data. And so with that, I appreciated having, 2022, 23, each year's fall, winter, spring results there, so that we can kind of go back and look at that information as well. So one of the things is that, I mean, 6 weeks, we have 9 weeks in a quarter, right? And so that was a pretty huge chunk that, the state's delay kind of, so, I'm cautiously,
Optimistic.
Optimistic, but also, optimistic, okay, we'll call it that. Because we know what, the first few weeks are a lot of review and a lot of intense review and everything. And what we've seen before, you talk about some of the other indicators, looking at early literacy. And one of those things, that's a question that's come up in the past, that we've seen improvements and, strong gains in early literacy, but that hadn't necessarily translated into outcomes at the third grade level. So, that's been kind of an interesting caveat. So I'm also cautiously optimistic on that front, as well. But what I did see in the presentation, first with these tables actually, is can you tell us a little bit more about, with the student growth assessments, what we should be seeing from fall into winter? Like, what kind of growth in an ideal world is what we should be seeing?
So looking at it so in this format, so what we should be seeing, the spring SGA results are the annual pass rates, right? So we want to see over each admin, especially fall to winter, And that's where winter is the big tell, because as long as fall is maintained from the prior year, the percentage of kids, they're kind of where they were, which means they know what they know, or they know what they were from the year before, what they brought with them. We need to see winter go up. We don't want to see winter in the percentage of kids that are moving towards that proficient area. And I know that feels like it seems like, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Like we want them to move towards proficiency. We want to see, it's almost the exact same thing we were talking about with vowels. We also want to see them further into the proficiency band. We don't want them hanging like at that bottom piece so that they're kind of swaying in and out. If individual level, if we don't see kids moving up, they're going to struggle to really get to that proficient unless they're really high already and they're kind of flattening out. So for here, I would want to see winter, the percentage needs to be higher. And then again, we should see it higher for spring. So it should climb each year with the percentage of students who have moved into.
Right.
If we want to say, what is that number? We always function, and I will say as a division, we continue to function with the old benchmarks of, for reading, we'd love to see 75%, right? All the new systems take all that away, but we have to have something to shoot for to say this is kind of the gold, the standard. So in the area of reading, we'd like to see that end of year be the 75%. So we want to see that, if we see that at winter, as long as things keep moving, I mean, we can't stop, we got to keep going, then we should hit that. Because what you notice, if you look at winter results compared to spring, we see that it's pretty flat. It's pretty close. And it's pretty flat, but we've been flat in third grade for years, right? So that's where, and especially overall. So that's where, again, we have a couple things that are hinting at it. But where winter's really going to be a tell that of how much is additional, that early literacy strength, how much is the 6 weeks.
Yeah, and so to be clear, so yes, ideally it's a no-brainer what you expect to see, right? That increase. But the how much is really the question that I'm trying to get at is what is a significant level of growth from fall to winter, winter to fall? And I ask, the other reason I'm asking this is obviously from what we see in the tables, we often see a decline, even with the STAR, we used to see a decline from fall to winter, and it was always shared with us that winter test was always much harder, which was one of the reasons why that you would see that decline and then see an increase. So that's why I'm trying to get a better understanding of the student growth assessment trends from that lens, and because what I'm looking at is a decline, from fall to winter, and then in some cases, a decline in spring from the fall, which is not what we want to see.
No.
So I'm trying to get a better understanding of what we should be, from a board level, what we should be expecting and looking at.
We're not looking for declines.
Well, right. So that's why
and
I
I don't mean that to be,
right.
Trifling about the answer, but it really is kind of one of those, we don't want to see declines, but again, doesn't mean students don't have time from winter to fall. In the sense of the assessment itself, remember, fall is always going to be prior year content. So that's telling us what we know, coming from the other grade level. The concerning part of even level from, or even a small decline from fall to winter, is that's telling us kids are struggling with the new content, applying what they know to go to the new content. Or they're kind of, and if we keep leveling that up to the SOL assessment and what we've seen with annual pass rates over years, that kind of starts to help us understand what's going on. Winter, we would want to see it go up because there's still half the content still to be taught. So if we saw 75% in winter in the proficient area, I would expect to see even more in spring because we have continued. One of the things that we have talked about as a group a lot is that is winter when all of a sudden people are like, uh-oh, and everything goes into place, right? So as, curriculum instruction, they've put lots of things in place so that as things are going along during the units of instruction, things are implemented as kids go versus we just got a mid-year score and that person's struggling more than we had guessed.
Yeah.
So, because that is going to impact where, and this is letting us look at it from the instructional programming perspective. in the sense of, doesn't mean strategies, means kind of the way things are being implemented. So that's why you're seeing a lot of next steps about checking on fidelity, walkthroughs, training administrators to be able to observe the different types of instruction with more clarity around what they should be seeing and things like that, is
Right.
those kinds of ideas.
Yeah, so that kind of ties into my next question. So like here, when I look at the tables for proficiency and those who need additional support, we, from previous years, are not going in the direction that we hope to. Like, we're seeing an increase in those who need additional support, and in some cases, it's either flat or decrease in those who are proficient. So in the strategies below, like next steps, it's, when we're talking about what is going well, what are those strategies that are going well, and what are those strategies that are not going well? That we are, especially, all of these next steps, for instance, we've gotten, I guess, great information in the past about, the impact of the tutors, and we've talked about that. And like, it's not really mentioned here in the progress report, so it's like, has anything changed with that? Are the tutors still the greatest impact strategy? And then, or Lexia, all of the things that we have previously heard, has a strong impact on moving children along. So those are kind of the things I'm still curious about and don't see reflected in the next steps here. So that's something, like going forward, like specifically for the board, I think it's important to know what strategies that we're investing in are working well and not working well.
Yep. And that's where we're working on that timeline piece to be able, we're having to work our way backwards and things like that to be able to layer on top of the data to say, tutors were in place for this, SIP started at this point, those kinds of things.
Right.
To be able to backtrack, when those things went on to say, that's when we started to see ups.
Right.
Or we didn't, or we saw maintaining at least, right? Or whatever those things are. So that's kind of why I made that statement of that piece, is that's how we would be able to say what might be contributing to the behavior of the data, basically.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that perspective. And then tying this into the presentation, you could see the gap groups, you could see who's struggling the most. And especially for our ELL students and our students with disabilities, what strategies specifically are we using to accelerate those students?
So we can talk about that now or in 4.1 when
Well,
that is
so
specifically
I just
laid
wanna put
out.
that- Yeah, we can talk about that there, because that
Okay.
is about the gaps, but I just.
Yep.
There for now.
Yeah. Because we were doing so much, I was trying to be very, layer things on exactly what they match to, and then it all talks to each other.
Okay. All right. Well, then that was it for me for this part.
All right, 3.1. So 3.1, our students looking at literacy again. We are looking at the increase of Black students who are in grades 3 through, the overall goal is Black students improving in literacy. The interim measure, just for informational purposes, I have the table at the bottom. It is something additional I've added. It is, like I said, informational. It's not changing what the measure is. Are the students who are in grades 3 through 8 only, because the growth assessment measures students in grades 3 through 8. So we want to make sure it's not a clouded view of what's going on. So moving through this, we have the chart and the table here. So the data for grades 3 through 8 students in reading for Black students is behaving just as the grade 3 data discussed in measure 2.2. The increase of the top of the proficient performance band hints at students in this group as a whole are stronger in the area of literacy. So again, it's not saying that everybody has moved up. We see a small few percentage points of fall to fall. But when we're looking inside the data, those bandings, we're able to see that there are kids that are moved up into that. So higher percentage of kids at the top of the proficiency band. Doesn't mean they're the 100% part of it, but they have moved up from the bottom. As stated before, though, the winter outcomes are going to be the real tell here of what's going on. When looking at the student group specifically, at the quasi cohort, we are seeing there are multiple grade levels that are performing higher than the prior year. If looking by the cohort, grade 4 reading is the most promising with improvement from grade 3 proficient in the fall of 25 at 54.2% to grade 4 proficient fall of 2026 at 70.1. So that's kind of looking in that quasi cohort. So we are looking at the same students where the beginning of the year, same time of year, if we're talking about the same grade level, we're talking about different sets of students. So using that data two different ways. What's going well, just generally speaking here, we have that the majority of the elementary grade levels are trending stronger than prior years. Again, that fall delay brings some of that into question, but what's not going well is we're seeing that the middle school grade levels are signaling that there's additional supports needed. So just like when we were looking at those dot charts, we're seeing those grades 5 to 6, 6 to 7, we're seeing some of those more significant drops when they're coming into the school year, taking the same assessment as the year before. It's for Black students, but it is also not at the same achievement level, but it is one of those where we're seeing that at the all students group as well. Many of the next steps for this interim measure are the same as 2.2. I'll highlight some of the things that are different. So we have that the disaggregating the SGA performance for the Black student subgroup. ARA does this initially, so it comes out right after the assessment is done, all the way down to the standard level. We also, in those companion documents that I mentioned before, which we provide at the division level, the school level, the teacher level, and then individual students have it, but what we also provide are student groups in comparison to the non-student group. So as we move towards goal 4, we're able to kind of talk about here, we can see for Black students, is there a difference between how they're even understanding different content compared to their non-Black student peers. And so with that piece, and we provide that every single standard, we provide it every single admin, and that way so that, again, all of us here know how to dig into that and really start to try and make some moves, and we do lots of training around those things. One of the other different next steps that are included is expanding collaborative comprehension walkthroughs to grades 3 through 8, which is a unique step compared to 2.2. Another one is develop and implement student reading plans for students with literacy deficits in grades 4 through 8. Also disaggregating that student reading data plan information for Black students, and this was new to be implemented this fall for the upper grades, correct, Mr. Clark? For 4 through 8 for you guys? Okay. And any student who in 4 through 8, if they failed their prior year SOL test, then they are on a reading plan, and as an additional monitoring point, they are assessed with the vowels at those higher grade levels to monitor in that way as well. And then, again, the next piece is the same as before. So this is another one we will layer on those timeline pieces, working our way backwards to see how are things impacting over time with implementation of strategies, initiatives, and those kinds of things, state requirements that have changed, to be able to understand that a little more. This one will be really fast. So this is the full inverse of 3.1. So with this piece, I'm not really, the things are the same. However, looking at it in this inverse, it always helps us to make sure to verify what we're seeing at the top is impacting what's happening at the bottom, and we're not just leaving a set of kids at the bottom and moving kids at the top. So the next steps, all of those pieces, the data takeaways really are the same as the 3.1. Keep going. So for, let me make sure I'm on the right one.
Let me just interject there real quick. As we're using the student growth assessment, the measure 3.2 is not as valuable as it was with STAR, because STAR had the 4 quantifiers. We look at the very bottom one only alone. With the student growth assessment, it's just the inverse. So, they were at benchmark or below benchmark.
I'm reserving my questions related to this. It's going to tie it to the next, so just,
Okay.
I do have questions, so just.
Okay. All right, so for 4.1, this is about literacy as well, 3.8. So this is specifically about the gap groups. With the gap groups, I will mention you have the first table is about proficiency. You have your charts as well with that, and the last table is about the needs additional support. I will mention on page 4, if you notice the title says math, and it should be reading. All data is reading, so that was I will correct that at the next reporting. But 100%, all the data included there are reading. So with the different groups, with this piece, interim measures here is about reading. The results are due that same thing that we saw previously. We're seeing more strength, whether that be true. Winter's going to tell us that part. But there are some things that continue to hint at kids being stronger in literacy, even at the student groups. As we've mentioned multiple times, winter's going to be the real tell. But we look at it to say in fall, we look at it coming in fall to fall and at the group. When we look at it at the quasi cohort, this is where we saw some more things going on. When I'm looking at it from the quasi cohort point of view, we're seeing another hint in the same way with students with disabilities, English learners, and the Hispanic students saw declines. However, all the other student groups, they saw improvements looking at it in that quasi cohort piece, even if they are not, the gap declined a little, but what we're seeing at different grades is that the comparison group is improving slower, not declining, but improving slower than the identified group. So with that piece, that's where we start to see some of that acceleration that we're looking for. When we're looking at that, so we saw that majority of the student groups who improved, they improved at a higher rate than their comparison group overall. For example, Black students overall, fall 24 to fall 25, improved in proficiency by 2.7 percentage points, while white students only increased by 1.8 percentage points, which means the comparison group didn't decline. So it's not a false sense of closing gaps. This is the type of data that's hinting at acceleration of learning for students. Doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean it's going in the right way, but it is something that's giving us a hint to the things we have in place are supporting students and moving them forward. When we look at it at that quasi-cohort way, what we're seeing is that we can pull it out by grade level, and that 4, 5, 7, and 8 in the identified student groups and the comparison groups are improving year over year when we're looking at the same time frame. This indicates students are becoming stronger each year, able to maintain understanding as they enter their new grade level. So what's not going well? Of all the student groups, EL students, so this is why we were holding off on that piece, EL students and students with disabilities continue to need additional supports for improvement. We should note, though, that students with disabilities did improve, but the comparison group just improved at a higher rate than they did. So it is one that they are not going backwards or stagnating. They are still moving forward from what we're seeing here. With the same thing, many of the next steps are the same, but to pull out, so again, with the working with school leaders to analyze subgroup specific data, that piece of it gets, we dig into that data so that they're able to really kind of understand what the needs are of the students in the different subgroups. PD is focused for specific student groups and on going in for targeted need. And then Continue specialized supports for English learners and students with disabilities. Some of the examples, and these are only a few, it is not everything that's happening. The customized supports for students with disabilities are, there's an implementation of an SDI instructional walkthrough tool to improve coaching supports for teachers who are serving students with disabilities, collaboration between learning support and curriculum instruction on division-wide PD, and many more. But the PD really has been focused around general and special educators, focuses on increasing and improving the supports for students with disabilities. And again, I am paraphrasing way down the long list of items. Especially some of the areas of focus of PD has been specially designed instruction, executive functioning, and high leverage practices, just to name a few. Some of the things for EL students to help support is the biggest one on the front end was getting those ratios with the new EL teachers. There are still some areas that are vacant, but bringing that ratio down of teacher to EL student. There's been a lot of PD for teachers of record on how to support EL students in the classroom. So trying to think outside of that pull-out model and push in so that students are supported within the classroom. Again, reducing as much time as possible that kids are out because Tier 1 instruction is still happening. With those ratios and also improving and increasing the understandings of pathways to graduation. I know that's not exactly 3-8, but those are just some of those things kind of looking bigger picture and down the road. And those are all just to name a few of those as well that are implemented for students with disabilities and specifically EL students. Figure you want to stop here.
Yep. I really appreciate you incorporating that in yours so that you answered some of those questions. What specific strategies, because even looking at the cohorts, you talked about like the middle school grades struggling more. What specifically at those grade levels what specific strategies are we using there or interventions are we using there to accelerate that group?
I am going to tag in Mr. Clark or Dr. Walter about responding to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple things. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. So a couple things going on. First, talking about the dip from 3 and down. So the outstanding phonics instruction that's going on at the elementary grades and getting the kids, more confident and capable readers, that only gets a kid so far. Right? So then we start talking about the importance of vocabulary and background knowledge and those kinds of things, because if you can sound out a word, I might, cardigan, if you've never seen that word before and have no context, that phonics didn't really help you, right? So one thing is in the middle schools is making sure that we are getting kids exposed to on grade level text. When we presented last time, our focus was on intervention, so we talked a lot about Lexia and small group intervention and reading plans. But the reason why we didn't put so much emphasis on this report is because really the focus, and I might be speaking for math a little bit here too, I'm not sure, but the focus really has to be on Tier 1 instruction. We need consistent, strong Tier 1 instruction. So that walkthrough document that she mentioned reinforces how important it is for teachers in every ELA classroom to be using on grade level text, challenging kids. It might be difficult, right? But we put scaffolds in place to make sure the students are being exposed to those things. Because if we focus just on the interventions and we fill the grade book with grades based on that, we're giving really good grades on lower level standards, and that might give a kid a false sense of security. So the importance of those on grade level texts is very important. And then Lisa and I have worked with the reading specialist and with teachers too through PD and our resource hub to provide teachers with sample question stems, sentence starters, things like that, to make sure that once they have the aligned, the appropriate text, that they're asking the right questions, right? That kids are being, they're encountering questions that they're going to see on these growth tests and on the SOL assessments, rather than questions that are, below grade level or in the lower level kind of thought process of recall kinds of questions. And then encouraging the the student engagement piece. Mr. Brady and the others, we had the benefit of hearing from our ESL coordinator at a recent meeting, and a lot of the strategies that she was discussing regarding ESL students, we just kind of saw the light bulbs going all around the room going, wait a minute, those are instructional best practices that are going to help all our kids, right? So that's why our focus was on the strategies that are in place for that strong Tier 1 instruction. And again, it's on grade level text and making sure that the activities are aligned to the rigor of those standards. And one other quick one, our Mastery Connect, what we're seeing is students who aren't used to being pulled for a little small group or kind of real-time intervention, they are now, because even though you got, say, an 80 on your test, you keep struggling on this one particular skill. And so that's where growth for a lot of kids is going to come into play. Because if a kid is consistently doing well, but consistently getting a 430, we're going to lose growth on that kid. So I think we're doing a better job of identifying the kids who need that support based on strand. So it's not just the kids who failed the test who are getting those interventions.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question about the walkthrough?
Of course.
So is that a new tool that's being used? And the second part of that is, in our schools, connecting this to goal 3.1, specifically around our Black students, is that tool being implemented with fidelity in our schools that have a higher percentage of provisionally licensed or associate teachers, which tend to be in our, schools that have a higher proportion of Black students?
So we've always had a form of a walkthrough document, but this particular one from the state is an updated one. And so it does, I think, do a better job of really simplifying things down to the essentials. And with that PD has been provided to all principals. And I can't quote every single school, but I do know when we've been attending data meetings, I've already seen principals have Google Forms and kind of data catchers using that form. So I want to say yes, but maybe with a little qualifier of a couple things I'm not sure of.
And I'd like to add as well, Norfolk was also one of the divisions around the state who piloted that tool so that we could have a voice in that creation of that tool. So we are further ahead than most other divisions on the use of that tool.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Obviously, it is a collaborative effort with all of us. Okay, let me go grab. I must have had my glasses checked.
It was up there, but.
No, that's okay. Yes. No, we're good. So, okay, moving on to 4.2. This is all about math. So same kind of idea with the gap groups. Well, exact same idea with the gap groups, but looking at it from the perspective of math. Again, we're looking at 3.8. That's what the growth assessment measures. And interestingly enough, we're seeing the same pattern of behavior. And I know I feel like I'm saying that over and over. I'm kind of condensing, when we've talked about things earlier on all these goals, they really apply to everything. So it's not that the other pieces weren't looked at, but we really are seeing that same pattern of behavior in the data with math. As we kind of looked at, we're seeing the ups. We saw a bigger up. However, what we do know about math is it is lower in the scale, right? So it's balancing all of that and kind of figuring out where the work is and that kind of thing. So if we're same kind of example, so looking at, we're seeing some acceleration and we are optimistic about that, but hopeful, but we also still know that we've had the 6 weeks additional instructional time. With that, if I look at it and I can say Black students improved, when compared to white students, that Black students, there was a 2.1 percentage point difference. So we're able to say the Black students were progressing faster at a higher rate than the comparison group, which again, it does, in the comparison group not dropping. But with that piece, that's what's starting to give us hints at acceleration, because that's just typically not what we see. So we are hopeful about that. When looking at the quasi-cohort in math, we're seeing middle school grades, again, continue to be an area of focus, so just like reading. But what we also, remember what I mentioned early on, and not that it's an excuse, but it is a different way that we have to think about things, is that the kids in middle school, our seventh graders, are those kiddos who were, or the sixth graders who were in kindergarten when schools closed, as well as when first grade was, for the foundational skills, was that hybrid piece. So that group is still struggling, and so there's going to need to be some areas of focus, as there has been and will continue to be. Again, highlighting just that grade 7 proficiency. That's that group. That's where that divide happens between the advanced coursework and grade level coursework for in the area of math. So what's going well, those hints at acceleration are what's going well. We will know more about that in winter when we, I sure can, you don't want to, that's not helpful, is it? We'll look at the proficiency table. Sorry about that. Thank you. But what's not going well, again, talking about those middle school grades, especially where we saw that dip from 5 to 6, so those transitional grades. So it's also evident in reading in the same place. So that's just a group of kids that we're seeing that just have a unique set of needs. So with these steps, these are all different because they're math. So I'm going to go through these quickly, and I have the math offices here to be able to answer any of the questions. So it really is monitoring and supporting implementation of any instructional material, the high quality instructional materials by PD, walkthroughs, supporting the implementation of the new standards that were implemented last year with professional development. Just like in reading, the new math standards, that piece of it is there was no crosswalk year. And so it was one of those that, everybody, it's kind of a stop, drop, and roll. That happened in reading as well. So monitoring that piece. The math office will monitor an implementation of Zern and Edmentum. They've designated specific schools as Zern schools so that they're able to increase fidelity and usage. Continuing to monitor implementation of data-driven small group instruction by conducting the walkthroughs with feedback and deepened intervention for high-need subgroups, as well as targeted enrichment support for students performing at the upper levels. Math office will also continue to analyze the unit test data. So the unit test data here, I will mention this is what Mr. Clark was talking about with Mastery Connect. So we've gone to a new unit assessment system that mimics the outcomes of the state growth assessment in the sense of giving us standard level data. So we call it standard tracking. And we've been doing this kind of behind the scenes for a couple years, but really now we're bought in and dove into the new system of Mastery Connect that gives us, in this unit, it was this thing that this kid is struggling with. And so where it's with math as well, just like Mr. Clark was mentioning, we have kids who, you've never pulled me for anything. Like, what do you want? And it really is, you're struggling on it. We're looking at it so granularly. We want to make sure those skills are there. And sometimes it's a bang for the buck skill that's not hurting you now, but down the road, you're going to be struggling. So we are really trying to get into that standard data and track it across the whole school year from all the different assessments. And then specialized supports for English learners, students with disabilities, that same list applies in both their SEI happens in reading and math and everywhere else. It's not just a reading thing. And so that same list that I read through are some examples of the areas for EL and students with disabilities of where to really kind of pull that piece in. So that is very quick for math, but it is all, I feel like you're oriented to the data and where to jump in from that point. And then, like I said, winter for all of this is going to be the teller, right? And it's not that we're waiting to say, oh, now we have to do something. We are looking at unit assessment data at every grade level, every unit, every coursework to make sure that, as we stated, the small groups are improving and it is very targeted and purposeful. And even the standards looking at it at the identified group compared to the not identified group, because that's going to tell us something. And I'll give an example of that that I talk about my background. I was a special ed teacher. And so with that piece, when we're looking at it, and I'm going to give me a math, something, so fractions. I know it's like fractions are always a struggle at elementary. So if I'm looking at one of the fraction standards and I look at it as students with disabilities compared to how they responded to the questions of non-students with disabilities, if it's commensurate, that kid doesn't need to leave to go do fractions, right? Like what's happening with tier 1 is working for both of them. So we're able to get targeted in that way. And it's also minimizing the time. EL students, gifted students, every student group, all the race groups, we do that so that we're not wasting the kids' time, and we're not wasting, the teachers not wasting their time running groups of kids who are like, got it, and it's really, you are here, and it's not just homogeneous group, you're just low, so you're here. It is, you need to work on this fraction concept, and you're here. So that is a big shift for us, and I think Dr. Pohl's been a huge champion on that I think is really starting, that's why we're feeling like these are hints at strengthening students' understandings at all the student groups. Yes, we have work, but that's kind of our takeaway, my takeaway from all of the giant piece of data we've just threw at you guys. Thank you for listening for so long.
Thank you.
I was trying to talk fast.
Next, agenda item 2.04, Human Resources Update, Dr. Sherry Agnew-Scott.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Good evening, Madam Chair DeColigiero, Vice Chair Thomas, and members of the school board. This evening, it's my pleasure to present to you an overview of the work being done in the Department of Human Resources over the past year and 7 months, to be exact, since my hire. Much work has been done prior to my hire, and there's a lot of work to be done. As many of you may recall, prior to my hire, an audit was conducted by select members of the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, also known as VAS. The study revealed both strengths and areas for improvement within the Department of Human Resources. I've been committed to addressing all of the recommendations made by the committee and to reviewing the data from our past and our present to inform our future practices. Two of the 5 recommendations made within the 2023 VAS study call for proactive human resources leadership and departmental reorganization. Upon my arrival, there was collaborative work within the department to create a structure that would allow HR staff to concentrate on and specialize in a specific area. Here you will see that the Chief Human Resources Officer is at the top of the structure, providing strategic level leadership to the team. 3 staff members will report directly to the Chief Human Resources Officer, an HR business partner who is a strategic level partner to schools and departments to assist in district-wide initiatives and other broad-scale projects that are developed, an HR technician, and the Director of Human Resources who oversees the day-to-day operations aspects of the entire team. The department is now divided into 3 divisions: talent acquisition, employee relations and investigations, and HR Information and Technology. We are pleased to inform you that the reorganization is now complete, and HR's team of professionals is focused on demonstrating measurable progress towards the workforce objectives of Norfolk Public Schools Strategic Plan. Okay, help me out.
I can do it for you. Just go back to from beginning, up top, and I'll do it. Go to slideshow. There you go. That X.
Here and there with your script. Then hit escape.
Okay.
From the beginning.
Not that one.
Not this one?
That's recording it.
Slideshow.
Thank you. Okay. Now that we're back on track. All right, that's where we are. Thank you so much. I have with me Director of Human Resources, Amanda Schilling. And today, the two of us will focus on three measures in addition to our completed reorganization: teacher retention, early hiring, and positions filled by the first day of school. I will now call on Ms. Schilling, who will share with you how this data is informing HR practices.
Good evening. As you all are keenly aware, we have several measures that determine our success as a human resources team when it comes to our workforce objectives of the strategic plan. We're going to focus on a couple of those measures today, highlight those measures, and tell you how we are moving forward to make progress with those measures. Measure 1, to increase the retention rate of teachers. For the last 3 school years, 3 complete school years, of course not including the current, our retention rate has held pretty steady. As you are aware from the strategic plan, and as you can see before you, we're hovering at about an 89% retention rate. We do not aim to hover, we aim to improve, though we are ahead of the most recently published, to the best of my knowledge, national average on urban school division teacher retention, which has averaged around, for 22-23, 85.9, we were higher. For 23-24, 86.9, we were higher. And then 24-25, when this study was published in early 25, it was not yet available. But again, we're not satisfied because our ultimate goal as part of the strategic plan is to hit yeah, I think it is 91%. So we hit it, and then we came back off of it. And strangely enough, for a lot of urban school divisions, since COVID, teacher retention is improving. And within Norfolk Public Schools, we've actually seen the opposite. We had really good retention during COVID, I think due to job security and a lot of uncertainty in the world. And now after, it's kind of wide open. The job market is wide open. People are transitioning, whether it's in or out of their careers. So again, as part of that improvement toward teacher retention, this fall, we instituted team meetings with our school leadership and development team, whereas a human resources team and a school leadership team, meaning the appropriate executive director of schools, we met with the principal of each school. It was an hour window devoted to going through their teacher roster with them to discuss teacher performance. Now, we focus primarily on probationary teachers because those are the teachers Number one, that we probably most likely need to provide intensive support to as they are earlier in their careers. And also with the probationary teachers, because, Karen, did you? I apologize. Thank you. It's okay. We're good. So through this, we were able to talk about teacher performance individual by individual. We asked the principals to rate where they are currently based upon the performance that they've seen since the beginning of school using the teacher evaluation instrument, and then talk about any interventions that they've provided at the building level, and then how we can help support those interventions, and to also make suggestions for those interventions. And if there were no interventions needed, we talked about how we can use those highly effective and effective teachers to support their colleagues in their building. So again, the focus of those conversations was teacher performance, the deficits, and any meaningful interventions, and making sure we have those documented clearly and early so that we can move forward in supporting the teachers. Excuse me. We do plan to continue those team meetings in the spring. We will meet again with all principals, we hope at the start of the second semester, around late February, March, so not quite the start. And revisit those same teachers, and if there are any new concerns, talk about those as well. Teacher vacancies, as you know, Measure 4 directly relates to the percentage of teaching positions filled by the first day of school. Thank you. Much like our teacher retention, the teacher vacancy percentage rate has held kind of steady. It's within a margin of error, really, if you're talking about data. We are pleased that we have filled with an increasing rate the classrooms by the first day of school. But of course, until that number is 100% or 98% as reflected in the strategic plan, we have work to do because every classroom should be filled on the first day of school. To address this, we have innovated or implemented several innovative recruitment strategies. And again, the focus being on the strategic actions. We have historically had the luxury of being passive. And when it comes to recruitment, there was a time when teachers came to you, when teachers came to the school division, teachers were beating down the door to start working. I remember I was hired as an English teacher over 20 years ago, and I took the last English vacancy in the school division. Those must have been the days. But to get to 98%, we know that we have some work ahead of us. And a lot of that has to do with four key components that we're hoping will advance that fill rate. The first being that the board has taken the first step toward right-sizing the school division. And so we hope through the right-sizing of the school division that will naturally decrease our increase our fill rate through over the course of the next 3 years. In addition to that, we, as part of the employment offers, we are moving those up this year, starting as early as the end of February, early March, after our internal voluntary transfer process has concluded. This week, we sent an intention notice to all of our employees, and I don't know if you know, but if you didn't, we had eliminated the employee intention notice for really since I think it was 2020, since COVID. And the reason for that elimination felt very valid at the time because people weren't necessarily disclosing to us their true intentions. So, everybody kind of checked yes, and then we still got surprised in June. But we hope that because the workforce has changed, our climate has changed, that our employees are planning ahead and are transparent with us about their intentions for next year. Just today, we've received over 900 responses, so we're well on our way to knowing where our vacancies are going to be, the school locations and the positions, ahead of time so that we can staff early. With the employment offers, we will not be offering the early commitment letters where we previously said we'd like to offer you an early commitment for next school year and sign here, thank you, we'll get back in touch with you. Well, that's not binding, and we really want to make the teachers who are coming to us feel bound to us in the most positive way by giving them that sure thing, because that's what everybody's waiting on is, who can give me the sure thing first sometimes. We all have bills to pay, and if School Division A can tell me this is what you're making, welcome aboard, sign here. School Division B is like, okay, well, here's a promise. We hope that we'll appear stronger with that offer. And we will with our salaries as well, as we are very competitive. So with the intention notices, as you know, with the right sizing of the school division, those individuals who are being affected by the school consolidations are going to have first choice, I should say, when it comes to voluntary transfers. And then after we settle where those individuals will be transferred to, if they're going to follow their students or if they wish to be transferred to another school, we will then open up the voluntary transfer process for all of our internal employees as we do every year. Typically, that's been in March and April, and then we make the final moves toward the end of May when the budget's approved, allocations are approved. We're accelerating that timeline this year. Based upon our constant communication with our business and finance team and our planning ahead, we anticipate that we will have clear knowledge of the vacancies that are available so that we can get the right people in the right places, get them where they want to be, staff the positions that are vacant, and start out strong. Go into summer knowing where everyone's going to be versus over the summer figuring that out. We also are excited about the financial, I apologize.
Absolutely.
So when we are, so for these teachers who may want to move to different schools?
Yeah.
Or otherwise, so are we going to consider seniority in those placements? Thought about doing that, so that those which have the most seniority, been here the longest, would
So-
be placed in a preferable, like have a more of a say in where they get placed?
So are you asking more specifically about the schools that are affected by the consolidations and closures?
Yes.
Or, okay. So we have discussed that, and because this is not a true RIF, we're not reducing our workforce. We have committed to the employees, with your support, that no one's going to lose their job based upon the school consolidation. We have talked about it, and we don't think, and we will have to revisit it if it's more than what we anticipate, that we're going to be in a situation where we're going to have those competing priorities. We have planned ahead for them, and we will take those kinds of things into consideration, not just seniority, but teacher performance as well. If there are X number of spaces and Y number of people who desire to go there. So the short answer is yes, but also other factors. Of course.
So that was my question,
Yeah.
because we do have some schools that have high percentage of long-term subs.
Yes,
So
we
how
do.
does that play into how teachers will be assigned to their schools?
Yeah, so I anticipated this discussion today because we do know that we have schools that do have high numbers of vacancies and therefore have a high number of long-term subs. For instance, one of the data points we're going to share with you later is related to our university instructor placements. As an HR team, we really have to balance retaining, because if we take the approach of administratively reassigning individuals to different work locations, we run the real risk of losing those teachers. So we have to balance that reassignment piece, that administrative reassignment, to where the teacher may say, it's not where I want to be. I've already been asked to go somewhere else. I was hoping to have a better or a different option. So it's okay. This is just not for me, and move on. We have to balance that with the needs of the schools. So we are appreciative of the financial incentives associated with some of those movements that those teachers would then receive if they chose to move to those work locations. Yes, ma'am.
Also, though, by right-sizing the school division, we're going to eliminate some of those vacancies that are in the teachers or the provisional teachers.
Absolutely.
That sort of thing. I mean, I
Yes.
hope that, if we do it right, that should be the goal, too.
That is correct.
Yes, so along those same lines, I mean, this for me was a big piece of the discussion, the strategic staffing, equitable staffing, because we were talking a lot about that, not only here, but later on in the consolidation discussion, it's going to come up as well. But this is an area that I want to hear more specifically from HR, what you are doing, because there are 10 schools that have below 80% of certified teachers in there, and they're the same schools every year, some with same grade levels, grade 1, 2, 3, every year. And, and I hear the concern often, like you can't do assignments of teachers in those schools because it's a retention issue, which to me is an adult problem, right? And really, we're here in the business of improving outcomes for students. So at some point, I don't hear where the balance, and I'm not talking about you all, I'm just talking about in general, whenever this discussion comes up, I don't define balance, because and I'm saying this more philosophically, because that often gets thrown out there as a word of trying to balance, retention with the needs of students, but the needs of students always seems to fall down. So it's like, what specifically are we doing to educate our workforce? Like, this is what is happening in some of these schools. Like, are you in for kids or are you not in for kids? And I think that's kind of the conversation that needs to really be had. And I've seen in other, going to conferences and hearing from other districts, those are the things that some districts really dig into. They're like, and those are the things that teachers can't deny. That's why they go into this field. It's like, we got to do this for the kids, And so I hope that we can establish policies, protocols that are about what the students need and not so much for the comfort of adults. Because, when I see the same kids, and I've been in this seat a long time now, the same schools, it really, to me, it's on me, because I, as a board member, am not, and I'm talking to my colleagues here, like, we are not setting a firm stance on what it is we want to see for kids. And that it falls on us. And that's something every year, every budget, one of the reasons I've voted against time and time again is that strategic staffing piece. And we've even made it a non-negotiable, where I feel like we're not adhering to it, because we continue to have a high proportion of associate teachers, provisionally licensed teachers, long-term subs at the schools for the students that need it the most. And so it's like, I want to hear specifically about what is HR doing differently to address this chronic, I'm calling it a chronic because it's been that way since long before I was on the board, with the same schools
I think-
that are impacted.
I appreciate that concern and question. We have the same concerns. We have those same conversations, internally about, what are we going to do to really prioritize our efforts so that our EELCs and our federally identified schools are addressed first, when they're made a priority. And so one of the things that, I know the HR team has done, which is to, create opportunities that are specifically for schools in those categories, having job fairs that are specifically for those, those schools. It's also advertisement. We did a big advertisement campaign last school year around those, the EELCs and the federally identified schools. So it's continuing to do those things that we are hoping will bring quality candidates and really highlight those schools, because those schools have a lot to offer. So we want the community to see that, and to really highlight and, and really do all we can to recruit specifically for those schools. We've also had conversations with the SLD team at the beginning of this school year to talk about, what we can do to bring teachers into those schools. Specifically, when we brought UI on board, we talked about, okay, our EELCs need to be staffed first. We need to make sure that those positions are in those schools. So, everything that you're saying is at the forefront of our conversations. It's just continuing to keep them at the forefront of our conversations.
And I appreciate that, but I want to push back a little bit, and not so much at you, I'm just at the system, because those are the same things long before this is, historically, that's the same response that I've received year after year, is job fairs, and advertising the schools. It's like, we clearly need to do something different, because those very schools, the EEL schools, those are the ones that are, with significant vacancies. And even with that being in place, we are not moving the needle there. So it's, we gotta own that. And I'm looking forward to hearing some different strategies, because doing the same thing is clearly not working, or working in the way. And I want to know also, what are we doing to talk to our teachers specifically about what they would like to see, have them involved in helping us develop solutions to this problem. And so those are things like I want to hear more about, yeah.
Before I give the microphone back to Ms. Schilling, one of the things that you will see that's different is through the org chart that I shared earlier. There are specific job duties that our team has now. HR now has recruitment specialists. So that's what they do. Instead of being generalists and having a variety of roles and responsibilities, their number one job is to actively recruit at colleges and universities, having those job fairs, but not just having the job fairs, but going out and seeking talent specifically for our schools, and finding candidates who will be a good match for those schools, and contacting the schools, being more active in that process to say, hey, I have a good candidate for you. Now that things are more specific within the HR team, there is that opportunity now. There's that space to be able to really specialize in that and do a good job in it. So I think that's something that you're going to see that's different, because there is going to be more active recruitment that will come about as a result of the restructure.
I feel like a little piece of this is leadership, and this is not all, fall on your department. The support that the teachers get in the building, how they want to come back in the building. Just like your substitute and your long terms, a lot of them don't return because of the way they're treated inside of the building. So sometimes we have to start at the head before we get down here. So I think that's a big issue too. Leadership in the school means a lot.
And retaining the staff that we do have.
Yeah.
So to address that, Ms. Thomas, and you would know probably better than anyone in the room, I will tell you that part of our team meeting conversations was with the school leadership, and having those very honest conversations from the feedback that we receive in HR and the feedback that school leadership receives about teacher turnover, where the vacancies currently are. Why is there a whole grade level vacant? What happened this year to have lost an entire team? So having those honest conversations in a safe space. And I think that as we build trust between HR and school leadership and our building leaders, build it up more, I believe that we'll be able to have more honest conversations like that and be able to be more solutions driven versus that's not happening in my school, or us saying, well, HR didn't do that, or whatever it may be, to kind of knock down those walls for the benefit of our students and our staff. But you're right, it is the same schools, it is the same grades, it is, the picture is the same. Another exciting thing, and it's very early to talk about this, okay. Sometimes our best ideas come from our employees. And one thing that came out from our conversations with teachers at Norview Elementary as a result of the school consolidations, I had one teacher talking with me after our presentation to them and forum with them and said, well, how am I supposed to know where I want to go? I haven't been anywhere else. It's somebody who was a career Norview Elementary teacher. And I'm like, well, fair, ma'am. Let me think about that and get back to you. So one thing that we're looking at for the early spring, so I guess late winter, would be teachers who would like to have the opportunity to visit other schools through the Department of Human Resources providing a substitute for at least a half a day so that they can do walkthroughs of those schools and see those buildings and see the things that are happening there. And, we tell the principals too, and they know that they're the salespeople for their school. So there's nobody who can tell them better than the building leadership. Absolutely. And people lock into culture. So if you may not love every other school, but you may really love this one school. And I will tell you, especially the teachers at Norview Elementary are very locked into their school culture. So they want to find that again, and they want to be sure of where that is. So we are in the planning stages. So I didn't tell you a day today or anything like that, but that is something that is coming in the very early spring, because we want to provide that opportunity to them. And I think that is where, oh, no. Okay, so talking about recruitment partnerships, things that are some the same, some different. We do have several grow your own programs in play, as we traditionally do, but we're excited to partner particularly with our internal grow your own programs. For instance, at Norfolk Technical Center, we have a pre-K program where they are preparing pre-K educators. One of the things that we're looking forward to for this year is to be able to offer some of those graduates commitments. Hey, when you're finished with your teacher preparation, here's a contract. Come back. You have a job in Norfolk Public Schools. We feel pretty confident we'll be able to honor it. And we look forward to seeing those individuals who you'll meet a few tonight, who came through Norfolk and then want to work in Norfolk with our students. Also, Granby High School has brought back their Educators of Tomorrow club. So that is a direct pipeline, moving high school students into teacher prep programs and then coming back to the school division that you graduated from and teaching with us. We continue the ODU Teacher in Residence program, where their students come to us for a semester. Is it a semester or a year? It's a full year? Okay. Where they come to us for the year, and they have a mentor. They're working side by side with the teacher, and then once they're finished, we hire them right into their own classroom with Norfolk. We do have new partnerships, for instance, with VCU, and that is a program where teacher assistants can teach in their own classroom while they're earning a salary without being the teacher of record. So they're learning almost like a student teacher alongside a full-time teacher. And then once they complete their preparation, they too move right into their own classroom. So they do go through Tidewater Community College and then to VCU for that teacher prep. University instructors, which we are excited about the partnership with them. We currently have 42 at the time that we submitted the presentation to you, but we've added 3 more, so we're up to 45 placements. 21% are at our EELCs, which is bittersweet, because then, of course, that's 21% of those individuals who are not currently licensed placed at our EELCs, but they're working toward licensure. They will have it by the end of this year, and we hope that they will continue in their current placements. And we have individuals in those classrooms who are committed to teacher certification. They are not there temporarily or and then with iTeach, there has been a lot of movement with iTeach and the associate teacher program, but currently we have 84 associate teachers who are enrolled with iTeach, 92 who are in residency, and the difference there is that between enrollment and residency, enrollment is you're in the program. That means you've been accepted, you started the program. Residency is you've moved into that first piece. You're eligible for your provisional license. So they don't have that 10-year renewable license yet. They're continuing to work toward that through the iTeach program, but they are eligible for their provisional license. So again, producing licensed teachers at an accelerated rate. And we do have 8 who have already completed it this year. So it is possible. I think that's where I turn it back over to the big boss.
Thank you.
And, okay. I think I need to be using my right hand. There we go. Okay. All right. So there are a number of support systems afforded our associate teachers to ensure their success. All of the things that you see there are things that are afforded to our associate teachers. They are invited to all of the same professional development opportunities that new teachers are invited to. They are assigned mentor teachers throughout their time as associate teachers, so they have that good support there and modeling. Teacher coaches are assigned to them for support and coaching as needed. Passage Prep is a part of the iTeach program offering praxis preparation free of charge for a total of 90 days. So they have access to all of those resources to assist them in passing the praxis. There are customized study plans, practice tests, and courses and materials with instructors through iTeach. And there are check-ins with staff. There's also model teaching through observation if needed, and access to PLCs and new teacher cohorts as well. So there are a variety of support systems in place for our associate teachers to make sure that they are effective in our classrooms. So we had prepared for iTeach to join us this evening to talk about the supports afforded to our associate teachers enrolled in iTeach. However, this date did present a conflict for them. So instead, we did think it would be a great idea to invite some of our teachers, some of our new teachers who have actually gone through iTeach, and they are now new teachers with public schools. So we are so pleased to have them here to speak to you about their journey. And I'm going to allow Amanda to come on up and introduce them so that you can hear directly from them about their experience.
So I'm not sure how much different I have to add, but we are so excited to introduce you to the 4 teachers who we have here with us tonight. They've moved from associate teachers to teachers this year. Yes. So, uh-oh, are we down one? Okay, we had somebody who had to leave because she's going back to her school for the winter program for her students, and she's very committed to that, which we appreciate. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'll introduce the first speaker, and then they can then introduce themselves. But thank you so much for taking the time to let them share their stories, because we're proud of them, and I know you are too. So Tiffany Sumler from Lake Taylor School is up first.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Tiffany Sumler. I'm a first-year teacher in Norfolk Public Schools through the I Teach program at Lake Taylor School. My connection to NPS began long before I ever stepped into a classroom as a teacher. My mother has been an NPS educator for almost 30 years, most of that time in Title I schools. Growing up, I watched her pour her heart out into her students, advocating for them, believing in them, and showing up for them every single day. Seeing that impacted me firsthand, and is what planted the seed for me to become a teacher. When I decided to pursue education, the I Teach program made that dream possible. It allowed me to take the degree I already had and turn it into a meaningful career in the classroom. I started at PB Young Elementary as a long-term in-house sub, where I began my I Teach coursework and truly found my footing as an educator. I later applied for a science position at Lake Taylor School, and Dr. Patterson reached out to me for an interview. She saw my passion for science and my potential as a teacher, and she took a chance on me. Her support, along with the support from NPS and the New Teacher Institute, has meant more to me than I can put into words. Teaching has been challenging, rewarding, and life-changing. I teach 6th through 8th grade science, so my classes include regular 6th, honor 6th, advanced 7th, and 8th grade science. As a first-year teacher still getting my certification, carrying this responsibility has not been easy. But every day I see growth, I see curiosity, I see confidence in my students. Making it to this point in the year is an achievement in itself. But more importantly, my students are learning and they're growing. I'm proud of the progress they've made, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they demonstrate that growth in their SOL scores. I'm grateful to be a part of this district that creates pathways for educators like me and invest in our success. Thank you for your time.
Hi, board and community members. My name is Morgan Dinsmore, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at James Monroe Elementary School as a result of the Associate Teacher Program at Norfolk Public Schools. My journey with teaching began in 2022 after graduating college, when I was placed at James Monroe as a tutor through the AmeriCorps program. There I saw the magic that can happen in schools in this new area I was exploring. After my year of service, I pursued another opportunity teaching at a private pre-K program. However, I found myself missing James Monroe. In fall of 2023, the new and beloved principal at James Monroe and I were in correspondence. She mentioned the new associate teacher program and how I would be the perfect candidate. Next thing I knew, I was enrolled in the alternative licensure program, and I had my own classroom. During this time, I realized my love for teaching. Because of the associate teacher program, I found my passion, made a living doing it, and have had access to so much education about this career path. From a scared new college grad to a growing and thriving teacher, I want to extend my biggest thank you to Norfolk Public Schools and Miss Jade Fleming, my principal, for taking a chance on me and many others. Thanks to the associate teacher program, many vacancies have been filled by people like myself with so much to bring to the table, including the desire for the best instructions for our students and the love that many of them need. Thank you again.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jakayla White, and my path to becoming a teacher was not a straight line, but every step along the way prepared me to serve students with purpose and passion. I am a graduate of Old Dominion University, and my journey into education began as a substitute teacher and then later as a literacy tutor in another district. Those roles confirmed what I already felt in my heart, that working with students was where I belong. However, I also knew that I want to grow beyond those roles and become a full-time classroom teacher. That opportunity became possible through Norfolk Public Schools. The Associate Teacher Program, in partnership with iTeach, provided a clear, supportive pathway into the classroom. Through hands-on experience, mentorship, and professional learning, along with the support of the New Teacher Institute, I was able to successfully transition into teaching. Today, I am proud to serve as a first grade teacher at James Monroe Elementary School. I am grateful to my principal, Ms. Fleming, for seeing my potential and giving me this opportunity. I am also thankful for the support of my colleagues at James Monroe Elementary School and for being a part of a school community that values learning, collaboration, and student success. That environment has played a meaningful role in my growth and confidence as an educator. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story and for continuing to support programs that help educators grow and succeed. Being in the classroom each day and seeing my students learn, grow, and thrive reminds me why I chose this path and reaffirms the importance of investing in programs that support and develop future educators. Thank you. And I'm also going to read, my twin sister was here tonight, so just picture, she looks just like me. She had to go to her winter program, so I'm going to read her story. Good afternoon. My name is Janiyah White, and I am a first grade teacher at Richard Boland Elementary School. My success story in becoming an educator began before I had ever had my own classroom. I started as a substitute teacher, but it was while working as a literacy tutor that my passion truly ignited. Spending time with a set group of students every day, building relationships, watching their confidence grow, and knowing that I had a direct hand in their education sparked my desire to become a classroom teacher. Although I already had a degree, I knew I wanted to pursue a different path. After researching, I found that Norfolk Public Schools offered the perfect transition for someone like me. The Associate Teacher Program, combined with iTeach, was truly instrumental in my journey. With the support of the New Teacher Institute and administration, I achieved my goal of becoming a first grade teacher. Being in my own classroom has only confirmed that this is where I am meant to be. I am a firm believer in saying that iron sharpens iron, and I see that lived out daily at Richard Boland Elementary under the leadership of Principal Boone and while working alongside skilled, supportive educators who pushed me to grow. I am grateful to my Principal Boone for seeing my potential and giving me this opportunity. My goal is not only to flourish as an educator, but to be the teacher who is remembered for the positive impact I made on a child's life.
So now that you've heard from our three new teachers, we just want to say we're so proud of them and the accomplishments that have been made. Thank you all for taking time tonight to share with us. So we could share a number of but we thought it would other, accomplishments and success stories that we've heard over the past couple of years from those who have started out as associate teachers and have made their way into the teaching profession. But again, those three were highlights for us, and we wanted you to participate or hear that as well. All right, so in terms of other celebrations, that's the cue. Ms. Tanner?
Oh, I thought you were going back to doing it.
Thank you. So other celebrations that we would like to share with you, we have actually made several accomplishments over the course of the past year and 7 months, as I stated before. One of the things that we are proud about is our golden ticket hiring events that have been implemented, which provides on-the-spot offers. So it really does help to expedite the hiring process, and also allows us to even start part of the onboarding process right there on the spot. So our assistants come and they're ready to get people started with the onboarding process right at the time of offer. Also, digital onboarding, that's being initiated for a more modernized, streamlined process. There's the implementation of a new case management software to improve efficiency through automation and provide quick access to centralized data. We're really working to automate some of the processes and get rid of some of the paper processes that are currently in place. So that's coming. The department also looks forward to document management solutions to reduce, as I said, paper-driven processes that will be provided. This year, HR was able to centralize fingerprinting and badging within the HR department, eliminating the need for candidates to have to drive across the city. So everything is right there within HR. It's a great one-stop shop.
Yes.
And also, finally, the department eliminated the requirement for pre-employment substance testing for DOT positions, so that also helped to streamline the onboarding process and get individuals into buildings and classrooms a lot faster. So all of this has just resulted in a more efficient processes within HR. We've done a lot, but there's still a lot more to be done. So stay tuned. We will be sharing more about the things that are going to be implemented in the near future. So that concludes our presentation. There's so much more that we could include, but there's just not enough time to share with you everything that's happening positively within the Department of HR. But again, those are just some highlights that we wanted to share with you this evening. We thank you for your time, and we welcome any questions that you may have at this time.
So I want to say thank you so much for the work you're doing around the associate teacher program and for highlighting the teachers tonight that have gone through the program. And I've particularly enjoyed, when I'm on a school visit, that has been something I know several of our principals have been like, let me take you to this remarkable associate teacher, in my building. So I think this is, this particular program, the innovation, the career exploration, as we heard tonight, I think the opportunities that it provides is really great. I would like to know a little bit more about the cohorts for the program, how that works, how the support systems that we have in place, how the associate teacher support systems differ from new teacher supports, and then finally, this is, I'm kind of, because I know we're under crunch for time here, I'm just trying to, and if you could talk specifically about that and what policies, procedures, or protocols does the board need to be aware of to help you implement it with even greater success? So
In terms of the cohorts, you'll find at several schools, the principals have put together these cohorts where they are just checking in on their new teachers, including the associate teachers, and making sure that they have everything that they need. So it provides that cross collaboration, across the building, and just making sure that that's in place. There are some school divisions, and that's something that we're looking into, where it's specifically targeting, those who are in the Grow Your Own programs. Specifically, I teach. We would like to move in that direction, so that's something that, we would love to have some, support around to put some of that together. Of course, HR is at the center of all of this, but of course it does require some collaboration with other offices within NPS. But to see that not just in a few schools, but to see that consistently across the school division that is more centralized would definitely be the goal.
So what can we do to support you in that effort then?
Well, one of the things that we've been discussing is, perhaps having a liaison who would be dedicated specifically to associate teachers. That certainly would be of assistance because, just keeping up, we're doing the team meetings with principals, but that's twice a year where we're meeting up with them. But there's a lot that happens between those, two periods of time. We just don't have the staff to be able to keep up with day-to-day or weekly visits with our associate teachers to check in with them to make sure that they have what they need to keep them motivated and just make sure that they're getting the resources that they need. If there's coaching, there's some schools that have greater resources available to them, such as our EELCs. They have, coaching supports and a number of other resources afforded to them, whereas other schools may not have those same. So if those supports are available across the city, then of course that would be of assistance. But just a liaison who would keep up with all of those things and make sure that resources are getting to the associate teachers.
Because right now, is it, whose responsibility is it to ensure that the associate teachers, know their timeline, know when things are due? Like, is that the responsibility of the principal where they're placed, or is it?
It's actually the associate teacher's responsibility in terms of the coursework because it's all it's all self-driven. So it's all on their own timeline and making sure that they get everything done or completed for iTeach. But in terms of, keeping up with deadlines, of course, that's where we come in. That's where HR, for licensure and all of that, and that 90-day window and reminders and that type of thing to make sure that they, know that things are coming before they actually get here.
And while she's coming up, the reason I'm asking about that, and if I'm misunderstanding these data points, so there's 84 enrolled in iTeach, 92 in residency, but we have 8 completers. So how many completers should we have?
So I can tell you that I teach through their own, part of what they wish to share tonight before they weren't able to attend, is that their program is actually designed to take between 18 months and 2 years. A lot of our associate teachers are on an accelerated path to completion because they are self-motivated in doing so. As far as our internal monitoring of those timelines and communicating those timelines, last year was, to be completely transparent with you, a learning year for us with associate teachers. The position was created in August, and we had a hiring fair for the associate teacher position, and then we quickly hired qualified individuals into those positions based upon principal recommendations. It was a learning year for the associate teachers, for the principals, and for us. Because of that, those who moved as associate teachers last year, we offered them the opportunity to remain associate teachers this year. Though the intent of an associate teacher position is for it to be a one-year position, 1 year only, so that we could clearly define expectations and communicate those expectations from the point of hire. And I think that was a huge part of what, upon reflection and review of our own practices, we were missing last year with this new position, is we were trying to understand how it integrated with our current positions. So at hire, they are given all of the timelines. So the first benchmark is a 90-day benchmark. That is a Code of Virginia benchmark for licensure, where they have to become eligible for a provisional license. So they have to complete 2 courses, and their praxis assessment. We know the praxis is a barrier. Unfortunately, for a lot of our associate teachers, that is why they did not meet that initial 90-day timeline, even with the praxis prep. But there are many things in place to support that, including the recent adoption as of November 1st of the Praxis Bridge program. And then the second timeline is that 120-day timeline where they have to have finished that second part of the coursework. So they have written documentation at the time of hire, they get a copy of the letter, they sign acknowledgement of the deadlines, and then along the way, they are sent those reminders about the timelines from me. Well, it's from the NPS Human Resources account, but from me, and their staffing generalists, who are no longer generalists, but talent acquisition and management specialists, work with them directly as well with reminders.
And I imagine there are costs associated with, I think you said the bridge program with IT. What are the costs, and what are the costs do we pay for, or do our associate teachers have to pay for?
The associate teachers incur the cost of the iTeach program, and
how much is that?
So the iTeach program is almost $3,000. It's like 29 something. But, and this isn't always the only helpful thing. They are able to defer payments until they enter that residency stage. When they get their full teacher contract, not just the associate teacher contract, and then they are able to make monthly payments on that cost as well. Last year, we were able to offer scholarships to 51 recipients. Unfortunately, we didn't pay out all of those scholarships because not everyone was successful in completing the program, and it was a reimbursement model that we used for that scholarship, where we paid once you finished and the invoice was sent to us. So those are funding opportunities that would continue to be beneficial. I know we have to ask for them, but most definitely, because we continue to get inquiries about, are you guys offering scholarships again? And it is expensive, but it certainly, one of the speakers tonight, and I won't identify who, but they were one of the scholarship recipients. And that's why they were able to complete the program.
In the program, you have to have a referral, excuse me, from the principal. Is that how that work? And also, do you at least need an associate degree or?
That's a good question. So one of the minimum requirements is a bachelor's degree. You have to have a bachelor's degree in something. It doesn't have to be the thing that you're going to teach. And then when you are mentioning the referral from the principal, you do have to have a principal within Norfolk Public Schools who wishes to hire you, so that we can extend the associate teacher employment offer. Yeah. Right.
Make sure that they're.
Correct. So they do also have to demonstrate that they are enrolled in a teacher preparation program, whether it's iTeach or some other program to be an associate teacher. We do also need that buy-in from them. But I think it is the way of the future. Associate teachers, as teacher prep programs aren't producing, we're going to have to keep getting creative with the associate teacher position, the support that we provide them, because their numbers will grow. The same people. That's right. Absolutely. And candidates will tell you, well, I have an offer with a couple of other sister school divisions. Absolutely. They have options. And we just hope to be their choice, and we try to convince them of that.
Thank you.
The board will now go into closed executive session.
I move. I second.
Going to executive
Ms. Moore
closed
Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Dr. Martin has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Tanner, please read the motion.
Said it was Buffalo and who? I'm sorry.
Dr. Martin.
Move that the members of the School Board of the City of Norfolk go into a closed meeting for the purposes which are set on in subsection A of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are the discussion of qualifications of specific candidates for appointment to the position of superintendent and discussion of persons and personnel actions included for a vote on today's personnel report, discussion or consideration of disciplinary and any other matters concerning students in Norfolk Public Schools that would involve the disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A2 of the Act. The subject covered by this exemption is the discussion of students and disciplinary actions on today's regular student support report, discussion of the award, terms, or scope of public contract, where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A29 of the Act. The subject covered by the exemption is the discussion of the award, terms, and scope of possible superintendent contract offer, and consultation with legal counsel regarding the specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A8 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are consultation with in connection with the matters said above in subsections A through C of this motion. Basine? Aye. Buffalo? Aye. Martin? Martin? Aye. Olson? Aye. Slaughter? Aye. Thomas? Aye. DeCalagero? What you trying to make me say something?
I would like to call to order the school board business meeting. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
Buffalo?
Here.
Martin?
Present.
Paulson?
Here.
Slaughter?
Present.
Thomas?
Here.
DeCalagero?
Here. Agenda item 4.03, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance with our student representative, Athena Ash.
Good evening. We request that all cell phones and pagers to be turned off or to vibrate during the course of the meeting. Thank you. Please rise and remain standing for the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 4.04, can I get a motion to adopt the school board business meeting agenda?
I move that we approve the school board business meeting agenda.
Second.
Ms. Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Dr. Martin has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye. Agenda item 4.05, school board clerk's report with Ms. Tanner.
Chairwoman DeCalagero, board members, we have a musical selection by our talented students at Booker T. Washington High School and their orchestra under the direction of Angie Burns. Thank you, Channel 47.
Good evening, School Board Chair DeCalagero, Vice Chair Thomas, school board members, Dr. Pohl, administration, and guests. My name is Zach Crooksby, and I'm the Senior Coordinator of Music and Theater Instruction for Norfolk Public Schools. In this magical time of year, Norfolk Public School students encapsulate the spirit and energy of the holidays by showcasing their talents and hard work at over 100 music and theater performances at their schools and throughout the community, including performances at the Grand Illumination Parade, Centera Hospital, on board the USS Wisconsin at Winterfest, at the Virginia Music Educators Conference, and at the Chrysler Museum. These performances nurture creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, skills essential for success in school and beyond. They also provide meaningful opportunities for students to build confidence, resilience, and a strong sense of belonging. Tonight, I'm honored to feature the Booker T. Washington Chamber Orchestra under the direction of Miss Angie Burns. They'll be performing Carol of the Kings, arranged by Anthony Susi. Thank you for your continued support of music and theater education. Your investment ensures that students across Norfolk have access to transformative arts experiences that help them learn, grow, and thrive.
That concludes your report.
That is my report, yes.
Agenda item 4.06, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Pohl.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Chair DeCollegiero, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the board, and guests joining us both here in the room and online. It's my pleasure to present this month's Superintendent's Report highlighting the many outstanding initiatives taking place across Norfolk Public Schools. This month, we feature students' visits to Norfolk Technical Center, where students are engaging in high-demand career pathways, as well as look at technology in action at Lake Taylor School, demonstrating how innovative tools are enhancing teaching and learning in real time. Moving on to a montage of fall sports, and of course, we are also very proud to celebrate exceptional athletic accomplishments, especially those from Maury High School and Lake Taylor High School, who, as you all know, have both earned state championships in football this past Saturday, an extraordinary achievement for each school community. For Maury, this marks their third consecutive state title. Additionally, this month's report showcases our legislators to school visits, which provided an important opportunity for our elected officials to see firsthand the great work happening in classrooms across the division and to engage directly with students and staff. And as we approach the holiday season, I want to extend warm wishes to everyone. I encourage all members of our community to take the time to rest, recharge, and enjoy meaningful time with friends and family. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all of our teachers and staff who give everything to our young scholars. Channel 47, please roll the footage.
Norfolk Technical Center opened its doors to students and showed off their exceptional programs during their visitation week. All 5 high schools came to NTC, one each day, and on this day it was Granby High School's turn. Students visited 4 different classes to help them determine if they'd like to pursue a program they enjoyed, which could lead to an exciting career.
When they go in the classrooms, they're going to talk to the students, talk to the teachers. They might do a hands-on activity, but they get to see what it's like to come to NTC. We want to fill every class. Most of our classes have a cap of 20 for safety reasons by the state, and we want to fill everyone to capacity.
At the end of the event, students were able to apply for any class that interested them. They appreciated the opportunity to learn more about NTC and recognized how it could affect their futures.
I enjoyed early childhood because the kids in there were very cute and the teachers were really nice. The classroom, it was very fun, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's important because you can build independence and skills you wouldn't learn in a normal school like Granby or Norview, and you have more social skills.
I've been to auto mechanics, I've been to pharmacy technicians, and I just came from practical nursing, and now I'm in dental careers. I think it's really cool because then, I get to actually be here instead of just, possibly reading things online. I get to see what I'll do if I come here.
Lake Taylor School invited the community to visit and observe how they're using technology to enhance teaching and learning in kindergarten through 8th grade. Students at this Apple Distinguished School use iPads in every classroom for research and assignments, and they also have labs with iMacs for more advanced work. On this day, guests witnessed 6th graders enjoying the challenge of building circuits using these valuable tools.
It's not that hard, to use. It's pretty easy to use. If you do it, in real life, it's kind of complicated, but if you do it in there, it has steps and stuff. And, you can do split screens instead of doing it in real life.
I was building a circuit using different components to try and get the light to light up with the energy that I was assigned to. What I enjoy best about using technology is that I get to learn how to use them and how we use them in our everyday lives.
Fall season is officially over. Let's take a look who placed in state competitions.
Blocked out all the noise. Everybody said we weren't going to do it, and we did it.
I feel great, man. I'm a state champ. I balled out today, man. I had fun.
Amazing, man. It's what we wanted all year. We talked about just creating a dynasty.
Just an awesome feel. I just feel so glad for the kids.
Norfolk Public Schools invited legislators who serve the city to see firsthand what happens in our schools during the annual Take Your Legislator to School Day. This event provides an opportunity for lawmakers to visit schools to learn about their needs and how government policies are affecting them on a daily basis. After the tours, everyone gathered at Sherwood Forest Elementary to hear about and discuss the division's legislative agenda.
It's incredibly important for our legislators to hear directly from the people that they represent. And they get a lot of different people in their ear kind of competing for their time and priorities. And for them to hear directly from school board members, from principals, even from teachers and students on what's happening and the laws that how that's really impacting them, that's important for them to hear.
I think it went wonderfully. It's very inviting, good presentation. We want to get our delegates and senators in the community to really see what is going on at our schools. And so when they are enriching in January, they can advocate for us.
What I got today was a better understanding of not only the legislative things, but the things that are happening at the Department of Education, that we can be really good sort of liaisons and give the great anecdotals to support for as we roll into this next session of how we can do better supporting our schools.
For complete video stories and more division-wide information about Norfolk Public Schools, visit the NPS website and check out our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram, and NPS newsletter.
Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Agenda item 4.07, citizens' comments. Ms. Tanner, how many speakers do we have for the evening?
We have 8 lists, but we have some special students here from Ruffner's Student Leadership Program who's going to buddy up on their 3 minutes. So we will start with Michael Dyer.
Good evening, Chair, school board members, and superintendent. My name is Michael Dyer, and I stand before you not as a parent of a Norfolk Public School student, but as someone deeply invested in the integrity of the district and doing the right thing. I am a teacher at Granby High School, and I'm here again to talk about the issue that has been unresolved for more than a year and a half, the ongoing pay inequity and injustice faced by NJROTC teachers in Norfolk Public Schools. Sadly, this marks the 5th time I've addressed the board on this matter without seeing any results. For those board members who have met with me, I thank you, and those that met with our other NJROTC teachers, I appreciate the time. If any of you would still like to speak with me, I will make myself available anytime, anywhere. Prior to coming before the board, I met with Dr. Agnew Scott on several occasions and requested meetings with the superintendents as well. Unfortunately, the meetings with Dr. Agnew Scott did not produce any measurable results, and the requests with meetings for the superintendent were rejected out of hand. I will not rehash what I've already presented to the board, as I have a limited time. However, I would like to put the pay inequity issue that NJROTC teachers face in perspective. At last month's board meeting, the school board proposed a 700% pay raise for themselves. Looking at all the factors that led to this proposal, I personally support the pay raise that is now part of the school budget that is to be voted on. In other words, the board identified a problem, they proposed a solution, and likely the solution will be voted on very shortly. Compare that to NJROTC teachers in Norfolk who have not received pay raises that were approved by you, the board, promised to all employees throughout Norfolk Public Schools for the past 2 budget cycles. Is this the way that Norfolk Public Schools wants to treat veteran employees? I certainly hope not. If MPS had simply followed through and done what was written and what was promised, if MPS had done the right thing, I wouldn't be here tonight. So tonight I urge the board to stand up and do what is right, not just for NJROTC teachers, but for the values that MPS claims to represent. Let's make sure that this is the last time I need to be here fighting for what was already promised. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Morgan Crowder.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Crowder. My 6-year-old son with ADHD has missed 2 days of school and will continue to for the rest of the year due to an inflexible administrative procedure. My son's babysitter lives 0.9 miles from the school, a 4-minute drive. A Norfolk Public Schools bus drives past her address every single day, yet my son can't ride it because our home is within 1 mile of the school. I'm not asking for new routes or resources. A bus already goes there. I'm asking that my special needs son be allowed to use it. I'm a single mother working until 6:30 p.m. every weekday. My babysitter has been fighting to find and arrange rides to pick up my son every day, but is unable to on Fridays. So every Friday, my son misses school. That's potentially 20 or more days of education lost for the rest of the school year. I've spent weeks trying to work with the district with detailed emails to Dr. Pohl and Mr. Fraley, and I keep getting responses that don't address the real issue, and both have gone completely silent. Dr. Pohl said that this isn't a board policy issue, it's an administrative procedure, so the board has no oversight. Mr. Fraley sent me information about appealing for home-to-school transportation based on railroad tracks and busy streets. That's not what I'm asking for, and I've stated that repeatedly. Dr. Pohl said that living in a non-transportation zone doesn't constitute a denial of access to education because the division continues to provide full access to the instructional day. But if my son cannot get to and from school safely, how is that full access? What makes no sense is that another student lives outside the non-transportation zone and goes to the same babysitter's address, and she is allowed to ride the school bus there, but my son isn't allowed to ride that same bus to the same address, even if it's 0.9 miles away. When I was a kid in Missouri, my home was within 1 mile of my elementary school, yet I got to take the bus to my grandparents' house 7.1 miles away on an existing bus route. If Missouri could accommodate working families, why can't Norfolk? Especially since kids have no choice but to go to school every day. The school has partial responsibility over these kids regarding transportation for safety and to prevent absences. I ask you, do you accept that you have no responsibility to oversee administrative procedures that prevent children from getting to and from school safely? Because that's what your superintendent said. I'm not asking for an exception. I'm asking for a policy change that would help all working families in Norfolk and all children, regardless of disability or not. No new costs, no new resources, just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Chairwoman DeCalagero, I want to invite Sharon Houston to come forward with Gethsemane Community Fellowship Baptist Church. And she has her group of her Ruffner student leaders who are going to get set up. It's 3 groups with 3 minutes each. And the first group, while she's gathering them together, the first group of students is for America O'Borden, Kamalia Haskins, Easley May Swimmer. Okay, I'm going to let you say their names.
They will say their names.
Awesome, yes. Awesome.
Good evening, school board members, staff, and friends of Norfolk. I am Sharon Houston. I serve as community partner with Ruffner. We're excited when Ruffner, some 3 years ago, shared their 4 pathways, and one of them being leadership. And so we gladly came to the table to support the students. So I'm excited and proud to introduce to you the newly elected student leaders of Ruffner School. Yes, they were elected, they ran for office, and they were elected by their peers. And tonight, as you are probably in the final stage of hiring our next superintendent, they want to share a few thoughts for you to consider. So please welcome Ruffner leaders.
Good evening. My name is A Miracle, and I have with me Kamaya, Reagan, and Isley. Together we proudly represent third and fourth grade students at our school. We are glad to stand before you today. We love learning, we love our school, and we are excited about our futures.
We hope our new superintendent will be someone who loves children and listens to students, even the youngest ones like us.
Hello. I would like to say we need a leader who believes in us, encourage us, and help us grow, both in school and life.
Even though we are small, we matter. Please remember us when you make big decisions.
We are not just students, we are your partners.
Good evening. My name is Louis Richardson, and I have Skylar Richardson. Together, we represent the voices of 5th and 6th grade students at Reconvenes. We are honored to stand before you today, not just as students, but as future leaders. We believe leadership starts with using your voice, showing respect, and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Reconvenes is working to build a culture of leadership.
Did you know that 5th and 6th grade is a time when students begin to truly discover who they are? We're not just little kids anymore, and we're not quite teens, but we are thinkers, helpers, and leaders in training. We're asking for more than just a leader. We're asking for a visionary, someone who believes in the student voice, who will invest in programs and build characters and confidence, and who makes sure that students in every zip code are seen and supported. We are not just students, we are partners.
Good evening. My name is Micah Taylor, and I have with me Together we are proudly to represent the 7th grade students of Reconvenes. We don't want a superintendent who only visits photo op. We don't want a leader who avoids risk just to take comfort. We want a bold, courageous leader, someone who takes big risks to bring big change. We want to see our superintendent just as much as we want our Don't just ask the principal what's going on. Come and see for yourself. Walk our hallways, sit in our classrooms, listen to us. Demand excellence from us, and we'll rise it to it. We believe that leadership is not about a title. It's about presence, purpose, and power. And together we are ready for a superintendent who leads with all three. Thank you to our leaders at Reconvenes for seeing us, supporting us, and giving us the courage to speak. And thank you all for letting us share what matters to us today. We are just students. We aren't just students. We are your partners.
Good evening. My name is Aisha Young, and I have with me
Liza Evans.
Together, we proudly represent the 8th grade student of Ruffner Academy. We're honored to stand before you today, not just as students, but as young leaders preparing for high school and beyond.
We carry dreams, ideas, and a deep desire to be seen, not just by our teachers and families, but by the leaders of our city. We want a superintendent who values our voice and our future. We are not just students.
We are not just students.
We are your partners.
Great job. Next, we have Charlotte Smith-Worley.
My name is Charlotte Smith-Worley. During my 17 years as a volunteer, I have witnessed many positive developments within our district. Notably, more resources have been provided for our children, from new technology to additional social emotional support. However, alongside these encouraging changes, I have also observed several deeply troubling trends in recent years. Most of these concerns arise from the school board's ongoing difficulty in fostering sincere, respectful collaboration among its 7 members. The lack of cordial teamwork is not just a minor issue. It is a persistent barrier that undermines the effectiveness of your leadership and ultimately the quality of education of our children. The community's desire for real change at leadership level could not be clearer. This was demonstrated big time in the November election when your newest member, Jody Slaughter, won every single precinct in her ward. Such a decisive victory sends a loud and unmistakable message from the voters. Yet rather than embracing this message and welcoming Ms. Slaughter, as a valued addition to the team, the board held what can only be described as the most begrudging, welcoming ceremony I have ever witnessed. The atmosphere was cold, with the notable exception of Dr. Pohl, thank you, gracious remarks. Even the group photo was avoided. Contrary to what some may believe, I don't relish standing before you to express criticism of the board's dysfunction. I do so because the fracture within the board has reached a degree of open hostility. Our school system is suffering as a result. Actions speak louder than any words. The treatment of your newest member makes it painfully clear. The board currently prioritizes the power of the majority over genuine collaboration. This approach does little to set a positive example for our children. I am committed to Norfolk's progress. I know the future of our city lies in our children. Our collective responsibility is to ensure they receive the best education possible, an environment characterized by respect, integrity, and genuine leadership. Thank you, and welcome, Jody.
Liz Alpert, please.
Chairman DeCalagero, Vice Chair Thomas, school board members, and Dr. Pohl. My name is Liz Albert. I do not have children in Norfolk Public Schools. However, I am a longtime advocate for a well-funded school system, particularly in the area of capital improvement. I would like to address my comments to the 3 remaining board members who voted to terminate Dr. Sharon Birdsong. First, I would like to say thank you. Because your resolution stated that Dr. Birdsong's termination by the board was without cause, she is now receiving her full retirement benefits. She greatly deserves this full slate of benefits for her 26 years of dedicated service to NPS, and especially for the 6 years she had to endure harassment from members of this very board. Second, I'd like to state, just because you have 4 votes doesn't mean it's a good decision. Speculation on the streets says that a board member has flipped and changed their allegiance for some reason or other, and now there are 4 votes for any candidate the majority chooses. The main question is, does this candidate meet or exceed Dr. Birdsong's experience and leadership capabilities, as well as having experience in dealing with a difficult board? If not, do not hire them just to cover up your mistake of creating an unnecessary leadership void. Finally, I will say this. Many in this community and the majority of your internal workforce wish you would just rehire Dr. Birdsong. We know the majority would not let that happen, but we also know this. We want someone of her courage and caliber. If your finalists do not have those characteristics, do not rush because, in this case, haste would not only turn into waste, but irreparable harm would come to the children and staff of NPS. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Lisa Walker.
Hi, my name is Lisa Walker. I currently serve as a reading specialist at Southside STEM Academy at Campus Stella. I have a few talking points for the board's consideration. The treatment of the associate teachers felt very unfair. You offered qualified candidates a pipe dream that exploded in their faces right before Thanksgiving. The contract they were offered didn't consider the day-to-day life of a new teacher, which includes but is not limited to the intricacies of the curriculum for each content area, planning and delivery of instruction, classroom management, the monumental task of getting everyone where they need to be throughout the school day safely, taking accurate attendance, grade submission, building relationships with students, parents, and colleagues, only barely scratches the surface of what new educators must do in addition to the rigors of taking and passing 4 content assessments for elementary staff to obtain licensure by the prescribed deadline. They have now been converted to long-term substitutes, which means they have significantly lower wages, don't earn leave, have lost all of their health benefits, and the mental anguish they experienced was very hard to witness. It was downright demoralizing as we stood by and could only offer encouragement. As a reminder to the board, there is a national teacher crisis. We really need a better plan for board and division goal priority 6. The annual equity report stated that 100% of the teaching staff was highly effective. It gave me pause because the only criteria for being highly effective was not being on a plan of action for licensed staff. Then I learned the largest number of our division-wide teaching team has 0 to 3 years of experience. The teacher data shared and the board goals are in stark contrast to each other. This report has the greatest impact on your most under-resourced students. Let's ensure that when you report 100% of the licensed teaching staff is highly effective, the data presented supports that bold statement. My last thought surrounds the secrecy around the superintendent search. We went from surveys and interviews to radio silence. NPS is at a crossroads with the right size and initiative. This board has made decisions that give backdoor and underhanded. I know we are all keenly aware that without full transparency, any changes will be viewed as self-serving and politically driven versus student data driven. Don't allow the real work and hard choices that must be made tainted by lack of clear guidelines, timelines, and constant communication. Ensure that every move that is made can be backed up by real and accurate data, not contrived presentations to check a box. As we enter this holiday season, remember the greatest gift we can give every child in NPS is the gift of reading. It is one skill that touches every single facet of their lives. Thank you so much for listening. I pray each of you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Agenda item 4.08, approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Buffalo has brought forth the motion and Dr. Martin has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine? Aye. Buffalo?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? Calagero.
Aye. Next, we have agenda item 6.01, the monthly financial report with Mr. Anthony Starks.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Pohl. We'll start with revenues. State funds, 92.6 million collected, which represents 33.8% of budget. City funds, 68.8 million collected, 40.3% of the budget. Federal funds, 1.46 million collected, which represents 27.1% of budget. Total revenues collected to date, 185.9 million, or 39.1% of our annual budget. Expenditures and encumbrances. Total expended or encumbered, 171.1 million. Net positions, revenues exceed expenditures by 14.9 million. Madam Chair, overall message, we are in a strong fiscal position as we near the end of the second quarter. Revenues are tracking normally and expenditures are consistent with expected pacing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You forget you don't use the clicker.
Okay. I'd like to comment on a couple of negative balances that are in the report. And I'll point out special education purchase services are about 2.7 million negative due to full-year mandated services encumbrances. These are costs that are federally required and must be provided regardless of budget. Next, student attendance and health purchase services are about 480K negative, and these are tied to contracts. Key takeaways. Our negative balance appears when the full-year contract is encumbered at once. And that's normally how we do business, is encumber the contracts. These adjustments are routine internal budgets, and no program reductions or emergency actions are involved. They should clear up as we go through mid-year adjustments. The other negative balances are minor operational items, be corrected through the normal budget reconciliation. Closing, our overall budget remains stable. Revenues outpace expenditures, and our variances are manageable. Are there any questions at this time?
Mr. Starks, you know, and you anticipated very well that some of the things I might ask about, so I appreciate you including that in your report. So I have no questions.
Can I get a motion to adopt the monthly financial report subject to audit?
I move that we approve the monthly financial report subject to audit.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Ms. Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Ms. Basine has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? Calagero.
Aye. Next, we have agenda item 6.02, School Board Consolidation Update with Dr. Phillips and Mrs. Smith.
Madam Chair Calagero, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the school board, Interim Superintendent Dr. Pohl, and members of the community. My name is Tonita Phillips, and I serve as the Executive Director of Elementary Schools for Cluster 2. Joining me this evening is Ms. Jerry Smith, Director of Innovation, Community Engagement, and Outreach. Tonight, we are pleased to present the Norfolk Public Schools Consolidation and Equity Transition Plan. This plan reflects our commitment to equitable access and outlines long-range strategic effort to strengthen resource alignment across our facilities and enhance outcomes for every scholar we serve in Norfolk Public Schools.
Do you want me to do it, or do you guys want to do your? You have the clicker.
I am so sorry, I didn't
I can.
realize the clicker.
I just don't know your
apologize for that.
presentation. Go ahead.
Our purpose this evening is to accomplish 5 things. First, to share an overview of the 10-year consolidation timeline. Second, to provide updates on planning that has already been completed. Third, outline major action steps that will occur between the fall semester of 2025 to 2034. Fourth, to highlight the equity framework guiding our decisions. And finally, to identify the next deliverables that will support a smooth transition for our students, families, and staff.
Let me help you. Okay.
Consolidation allows us to realign our facilities and operations so that every student has access to high-quality programs and well-supported learning environments. The consolidation efforts are driven by 4 critical goals: ensuring equitable access to programs, allocating resources more effectively, improving financial stability, and strengthening student outcomes. These efforts enable us to thoughtfully repurpose our facilities, ensuring that our school system remains forward-thinking and responsive to the evolving needs of our students and families.
Good evening. Equity is the foundation of this plan. Our work is guided by a clear framework that aligns with the Norfolk Public Schools' equity priorities. It emphasizes thoughtful resource alignment, meaningful community engagement, responsive practices, strong accountability systems, and minimizing disruptions to students and families. This ensures that our decisions are centered on fairness, access, and student opportunity. We use several key indicators to ensure our consolidation efforts advance equity. We will examine the following: educational opportunity, maintaining access to rigorous instruction, coursework, specialized support, and early learning quality for all impacted students. Facility readiness, ensuring staff, materials, and facilities readiness are aligned equitably across impact sites. Transportation, ensuring that route structures are considered and monitored due to the consolidation. Workforce stability, ensuring retention of staff from closing schools, as well as maintaining diversity across receiving schools. Student well-being, provides support and maintains stable attendance, discipline, and climate support. Family and community voice, ensuring clear, multilingual, timely communication with families and provide inclusive engagement opportunities for stakeholders. Lastly, monitoring and accountability by conducting regular reviews, progress updates, and, as always, our annual equity reports. Implementing timely actions when the needs arise. These indicators help us to evaluate impacts, monitor progress, and ensure accountability throughout each phase of the transition.
The consolidation plan unfolds across 4 phases over 10 years. Each phase includes preparation periods, transition activities, and follow-up monitoring to ensure orderly implementation and continuity. Phase 1 from 2025 to 2026. Phase 2, 2027 to 2028. Phase 3 from 2028 to 2029. And Phase 4 from 2030 to 2034. This extended timeline ensures we have the time and structure needed to prepare, engage our community, and support students through each transition. Phase 1 includes initial student shifts based on enrollment patterns, facility capacity, and equitable access needs. We anticipate students currently at Willoughby transitioning to Ocean Air, students from Norview transitioning to Sherwood Forest and Tanners Creek, and students from Ocean Air transitioning to Ocean View, Bayview, and Mary Calcott. These shifts have been identified through a careful review of data, facilities assessment, and equitable indicators. To support these transitions, we have established cross-functional transition committees. These include representatives from school leadership, school-based administration, instructional leadership, data, facilities, communication, Title I, English learners, learning support, PTA, or community ambassadors. These teams are responsible for detailed planning, communication, and collaboration to ensure that each perspective, academic, operational, and community-based, is represented for a smooth and student-centered transition. Our major focus in Phase 1 is staffing stability and transparency. Our staffing and redistricting goals include a clear staff transfer timeline from January 15 to March 16, 2026, which has been updated from the slide. Human Resources will coordinate closely with schools to retain staff and support them through this transition. In partnership with Woolport, we are developing a draft redistricting plan and organizing community listening sessions to ensure that stakeholder perspectives follow a meaningful, informed process. In the fall semester of 2025, Human Resources initiated the process by meeting with impacted schools and providing an overview to school administration and staff. Following this initial step, school leadership began monthly meetings with principals to ensure ongoing communication, support, and alignment throughout the transition. During these meetings, school leadership collaborated with principals to develop a refined and comprehensive Q&A document that outlines essential information for the district's school consolidation and equity transition team. This resource serves as a live document designed to address emerging questions, provide clarity, and maintain transparency. The Equity Transition Support Plan was launched to guide schools through the consolidation process with the emphasis on equitable access, resource alignment, and support both students and staff. Facilities assessments were conducted to evaluate the capacity and readiness for receiving schools. Transportation audit will help the division redesign routes as needed to support consolidation attendance zones. By June 2026, impacted schools would have formed committees, planned and held legacy events, launched public-facing communication efforts, and initiated student bridge-building activities to strengthen relationships across school communities. In March and April of 2026, several key activities will take place, including a staff transfer job fair, legacy celebrations for outgoing communities, transition nights for students and families, continued access assessments, and the start of renovations at Ocean Air. These steps ensure both preparation and celebrations are well honored at each school's legacy while moving forward to the next phase. During the 2026 during June 2026, schools will complete move-out procedures and finalize inventory. This period also includes important final communications to families, continued access assessments, and release of the Woolport Lookup Tool, which will support transparency during the rezoning.
The Equity Transition Support Plan, also known as the ETSP, provides a detailed checklist for each school covering the key equity indicators already described previously, which include instruction, facilities, transportation, student well-being, workforce considerations, community and family voice, and monitoring systems. This plan ensures that equity remains central to every transition step, that schools receive the support they need before, during, and after consolidation. Community engagement strategies. Meaningful community engagement remains essential throughout this process. Our strategies include multilingual information sessions, partnerships with civic leagues, school and campus tours, and community-based events. These efforts help ensure transparency, build trust, and elevate family voices across all impacted school communities.
This concludes the overview of the Norfolk Public Schools Consolidation and Equity Transition Plan. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. A more extensive and detailed version of the plan has been uploaded to Board Docs for your review. We appreciate the Board's continued commitment to ensuring equitable, sustainable, and student-centered learning environments for all the students across.
Are there questions?
Thank you so much for the update. I have a few questions. And first, I want to ask, the key equity indicators that were listed there, have you thought about, or I didn't see specifically in the full plan how those indicators would be measured or what would be looked at. I'm sure, you might.
There are measures for each of those metrics.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and that, I guess, what will be your communication strategy to the board, to the community, in terms of how we are doing with those indicators?
We'll make sure we are aligning our efforts with things that are already in place, to not add in addition to, but to really integrate into practices we already have. So, for example, we have our data or our ASM meetings that we're attending, and so we'll support through that means, as well as our committee meetings as well.
Okay. And I'm not sure if you can answer this question, or maybe Dr. Pohl. So in the plan, the document that was attached, it talked about redistricting. The redistricting seemed like it was being done in a piecemeal fashion, or are we gonna get a full redistricting plan this, I think it was March, that was
Ms. Basine, we'll have a full redistricting plan. The urgency of, the reason it feels a little piecemeal is there's urgency to do a public hearing and a vote by March 30th on both Ocean Air and Norview.
Okay.
So that's why it felt piecemeal, but the whole plan is coming in at one time to look
It
at the
is,
city
okay.
as a whole, absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that because I did notice that and wanted to be sure that we weren't doing it that way throughout the different phases, so I appreciate that. And for right now, I know a lot of this is being worked out and worked through, so I'm going to reserve my other questions to another time.
Colonel.
On March, April activities, you have the Ocean Air renovations are starting. That's during the school year. How is that going to be accomplished if the children are still in the school?
Mr. Fraley?
Those won't impact the students.
Okay.
We won't begin the inside until the students and staff dismiss mid-May.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Agenda item 6.03, the compensation resolution. A vote is required. Can I get a motion to accept the school board compensation resolution?
I move that we approve the school board compensation resolution.
Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Ms. Thomas has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Absolutely. Colonel?
I think that with the time, with short time recently, we've been able to explain our position, why we think we should adopt this resolution for the pay. And it wasn't clear at the beginning, and hopefully everybody understands the need for the change in the compensation for those that are on the board. What they give to the community and what they do, sometimes 2 days a month for meetings, 3 days for going to schools and other activities. So it's not just we're trying to get a lot of money. We're trying to get some coverage for our what we need, our things that we give up. So I speak in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman DeCalagero. Our school board compensation undoubtedly needs to increase. It hasn't increased in decades. However, I do continue to have some reservation about how we're doing it in terms of, taking the full leap to a significant raise versus a phased-in approach. And I say this for multiple reasons. Obviously, I know that an increased salary is commensurate with the demands of this role. It's a professional role. We put in a lot of time, a lot of hours to do the best that we can for our students. But having said that, I also think that there needs to be some accountability metrics tied to this. And I think a phased-in approach gives us a little time to determine what that is. And I say this because, I've been on several iterations of the school board, and I've also observed school boards for many years before actually sitting on the school board, and was part of a grassroots advocacy group that changed, I helped lead the effort to change school board terms from 2 years to 4-year terms, because stability was very important to student performance. And my concern is student performance, is that there has been no accountability, whether appointed or elected, of school boards as it pertains to student performance. And I feel that any raises that needs to be considered, there needs to be metrics tied to it, where school boards can't just increase their pay without there being some accountability. And so I acknowledge that there needs to be an increase, but I would like to see us do it in a phased approach and to also discuss policies that we put in place that highlights commitments that the board will make around engaging in strong and effective governance that is focused on improving outcomes, and that we should have scorecards that show exactly how we're doing. And I'm not just saying that for us as a school board. I think our city council should also have scorecards as to how they are doing to improve their districts as well, their wards. However you want to look at it, I think that we all need to be held to a higher standard. So with that, I'm not going to vote in support because I truly believe that we need to be doing a phased-in approach, along with the policies in place that show our commitment to actually raising student achievement.
Your comments? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Nay.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Polson?
Ward 5 votes yes.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye. Before the board goes back into executive closed session, I'd like to make a statement about the superintendent search process. Over the past several months, the Norfolk School Board has been involved in a detailed and complex process to select a new superintendent. This process has included a period for community feedback, careful review of resumes, and rounds of interviews. The board is still working through this search. On December 2nd, 2025, the Virginia Department of Education granted the board a 60-day extension to complete the selection. This extension will end on February 7th, 2025. We look forward to making an announcement of our candidates soon. Will end on February 7th, 2026. I forgot to roll over to the new year. I apologize for that. Thank you for catching it. Can I get a motion to go back into executive closed session?
I moved that we go back into close executive session.
If we can get a second, and then Ms. Slaughter can read the motion.
I second.
I move that the board go into a close.
Don't you announce who?
Colonel Paulson has put forward the motion, and Ms. Buffalo has seconded it. Yes, you go ahead, Ms.
I move that the board go into a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing a potential violation of confidentiality in connection with the personnel matter pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and receiving advice of legal counsel regarding such violation pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A8 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act.
Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Polson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? DeCalagero?
Aye.